Happy Monday, my degenerate gamblers. How's everybody doing? Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. It is a big time fight week, UFC 276, baby. Here we go. I am so looking forward to this card. I hope everybody is as amped up as I am. And I hope that intro is getting you the same way it's getting me these days, guys. Like, I already look forward to Mondays. I always look forward to talking fights, talking some degenerate gambling. But now that we got the intro song going, oh, it gives me chills when that thing plays to get the show started. What is up? We got Adriana Coma saying, yo, glad I will catch the show live for the first time in 3 months. I am glad you are here, my friend. Thank you for hanging out. I love Clinty, baby. Dr. Elijah True. We've got Jonathan Ingram, Brandon Mushroom, Lou in the house, Dan Goldstein. We got some of the same old faces here. Grateful dude, Gerald Lynch saying what's up from the Philippines. Thank you for tuning in. My guy DFS by the numbers. How's everybody doing? Brian Lockhart, Evan L from the chat, Sean Knuckle, Boof on the beat, Zico Lee. All right, we're all here. Bob, what's up, Andy? I see you guys in the chat there. All right, there's two Andys. All right, here we go. So I'm all caught up in that. Real quick, everybody, I do want to give a quick shout out. This is something that I've been falling behind on just a little bit, but y'all know I have been on a rough skid here in 2022, currently sitting negative units. We've been swinging from the rafters, and we're going to work our way negative. We got I'm positive. Geez, we're going to work our way positive. We got a couple months still to do it, but we've had some super big scores. When those happen, every once in a while, you get some of the people that tailed that throw a little something my way, a couple tips. If you guys donate here in the super chat, that goes directly to Pub Sports Radio. Some people have reached out to me and tipped me personally. So real quick shout out and thank you to Rodney Mahalaserda. We've got Stephen Baldwin, Jared Biggs, Scott Gearling. We've got Thomas Scarpacchi, I believe is how you would say that. Matthew Glista, Joe Rosen. We've got William Friedrich, Jude Terp, and my guy, as always, the OG, the man himself who never misses a beat, Michael Lunn Day. You guys are like the OGest of the OGs. I appreciate anybody and everybody watching and supporting the show, but obviously the people doing it financially get that extra special shout out. Everybody in the chat, thank you for being here on a Monday. We've already got 97 people rocking with us. Smash the like button for me. And I've got a great guest for you here. We were supposed to have Kyle. There was a little bit of a big, some things happened. Little bit of a scheduling mishap. We'll get Kyle back on the show one of these days. But you know what? If you lose a first-time guest coming on the podcast, someone nobody's, super attached to, we all really want to test it out, get that first face-to-face thing, you got to replace it with something big. And when you have a guest like that falls out, you go, man, who do you bring on that feels those types of clown-sized shoes? And if you're going to fill some big shoes, you got to go with one of the big boys. And that's right. This week we've got Uncle Weezy rocking on the podcast. One of the favorites. Uncle Weezy, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you asking me to be on last minute here because this card might be one of the best of the entire year. It is absolutely fantastic. From the bottom to the top. I mean, even the curtain jerker, Clint, we got the Lithuanian Ronda Rousey. I mean, if you can't have Ronda Rousey, you might as well have the Lithuanian version. And then as we go on from there, it just gets better and better and better. I mean, Uriah Hall against André Muniz, Brad Riddell against Jalin Turner, Sugar Sean O'Malley's on this card, 2 title fights. This is serious, man. I can't wait to chop up this card with you, brother. We're gonna have such a good time.
I completely agree, Weezy. Thank you for showing up here on short notice. The people are already loving it here in the chat. And hey, for those people that don't know, Now, Weezy, I've told you this personally, but for the people that don't know. So I've got a list, everybody. And what I like to do is I rotate through your favorites. I bring all the good old boys back on the show here. But then I got to sprinkle in a couple more names in there, get some new people, some new blood here on the show. And I kind of rotated around that way. Weezy, you were on the tip top of my list to get back on the show. It's been too long since we've done a show together. And when this opportunity opened up, I was like, it's time. You know what? It's a damn good show. And I got to sit with my guy, Weezy. So thank you for taking out the time to come jump in here with me. How'd you do last week?
Last week was, I kind of stayed small last week. I lost just under 2 units. I won on the Sergey Morozov money line. I lost on the Tafan and Chukwi money line. And, sometimes it's even better to just lose like that. Don't let the judges take it away from you. Don't sit there and pretend like your read was great. Just go out there, get starched, admit you're wrong, and move on to the next fight. And then I also parlayed TJ Brown with Moises. They were my 2 most confident picks of the week. And man, I said it last night on Stat Diggers, Clint, when you bet on dudes with really bad haircuts, you deserve everything that's coming to you. Because look, and I said it last night, man, a bad haircut is a bad life choice, right? And we're looking for guys that make good choices in the cage. And it's hard to make good choices in the cage. Somebody's trying to kill you in there. You're in your underwear. There's a crowd. You got Saul D'Amato's dumbass face looking at you from cage side. It's hard to make. But like when you sit down in the barber's chair and you've had time to think, you don't go like, oh, dye the top half blonde and give me a mohawk, That's a bad decision. If you're making bad decisions like that, chances are people like me shouldn't be putting my money on you and pretending that you're going to win a fight against a good wrestler. I got everything that I had coming to me last week, but I'm looking to get it all back and then some this week. I'm looking to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC 276, Clinton. So let's chop it up, man. Let's go.
That's what I like to hear, Weezy. That is what I like to hear. So for myself, I jumped in live on TJ Brown, Weezy. I got in even money plus 100 after that first round. I thought I had made a glorious bet. Like I was sure that TJ Brown was going to come back strong and win that fight. He got round 2. It was 1-1 going into 3. And I've got even money on the guy that was minus 250 pre-fight. Like I felt pretty damn good. And then, he dropped the ball. So I was right there with you. I think a lot of us lost money on TJ Brown Saturday, but really, I actually ended up having a winning event. The Action Man got it done the way we needed him to. But God, I got kicked right in the short pants by the PFL, Weezy. Never again. Like I swear, at this point, I'm like done betting PFL because I can't, for the love of God, I cannot win a weekend on PFL. Underdogs, favorites, doesn't matter. Something happens in that series that will cost me my money. And the worst part about it, the people in the chat, I've said it a couple times, I've been on this reality betting TV show the last couple weeks, Weezy, 8 weeks of a winner-take-all format called Best Bet. Your boy was in first place with a $300 bankroll advantage. And I came up with the airtightest, lockiest lock parlay that I could ever have to double up my bankroll and walk away with a 4K top prize in this winner-take-all format. And I put fucking Bruno Capoloza from the PFL in that parlay. Dude closed as like an 8-1 favorite, had a hand-picked opponent, a short notice replacement who got scrubbed off of Dana White's Contender Series and knocked out anytime he took a step up in competition. Bruno had no interest in being there that night, man. He had already qualified apparently, and that was something that's my fault for missing that. He had already qualified for the tournament, so this fight didn't mean shit to him. So he went out there and lost a very close fight. I thought he had actually won rounds 2 and 3 and did enough to get the nod 29-28. Went the other way and cost me $4,000 in that first prize tournament. So I'm done with PFL, folks. Like if I make a PFL bet, it's going to be very, very meticulously researched because
I'll be watching you, Clint. I'll be watching. I'll be standing by with the sack of oranges. And if I get wind that you're going to be betting these PFL fights, because let me tell you something, as a recovering addict of laying juice in women's MMA, I've been to the orderlies. They've taken me from my home. I've been in that padded room. I know what it's like. I laid minus 200 on Corey McKenna. You know, my name is Michael, and I have a gambling problem. Okay. Yeah, look, it happens. But when we quit doing things that hurt us as people, it hurts the people around us. I'm sure your wife hates seeing you put like a brick through the TV when Capoloza blows it as a minus 800 favorite. These are the things that we need to quit as gamblers. Laying juice on women's MMA, betting low-level heavyweight fights, betting Bellator and PFL and laying a ton of juice on those guys. When we get that in the rearview mirror, it feels great. It feels like we've gotten past an addiction that really needs to be in the rearview mirror so that we can get on with the rest of our life.
Weezy, it is so true, and we're going to definitely try to clamp down on some of those bad habits, especially coming up here pretty quick. I would love to make some better gambling habits and leave those bad ones in the rearview mirror and betting on those smaller organizations. I know some people out there have a whole lot of success with it. I simply haven't. So I'm probably going to stop doing that, or it's going to be a lot of dog or pass. I'm going to be sprinkling on some of these gigantic, massive freaking underdogs that manage to get in there and squeeze a win out every once in a while. But no more laying chalk, man. I'm about done getting burnt by this bullshit.
It's a good way to stay away from it because, like, you know, you have to have an idea of what the implied probability of that chalk bet that you're making. If you're laying minus 400, that's an 80% implied probability. That means you need to be right 9 out of 10 times on those kind of bets just to eke out a small profit. There's very little room for error there. And if you go into those kind of bets treading lightly and having an idea what the implied probability is, you'll make better decisions long term.
It's a good call, Weezy. It's a good call. We turned this vent session into something the gamblers can learn from. I love it. All right, 146 people, 12 minutes in. Smash the like button so we can get this bad boy trending. My guy Sean Knuckle with a $20 donation saying, Weezy in the easy. Clint in the house. Let's start off with this $20. One for every takedown Chris Curtis defended last week. Let's go, baby. Thank you very much for the donation, Sean. We appreciate that. All right, everybody. It's about that. Oh, you know what? Don't want to cut my guy Bob off here. Please do a live Q&A like Uncle Weezy's Ask Weezy. That stuff always true, boss shit. You know what? That is a good call, Bob. That is something that I probably will do. I did one after an event a couple weeks ago, and it was a ton of fun. So maybe I should start doing something like that. You know what? And it's funny, Weezy. Last comment, then we can dive into the show. Somebody in last week's YouTube show, one of the comments I got on the YouTube show was they were like, I can never understand why Clint will not lay minus 125 on someone like Tafon and Chukwi, but he'll throw a unit on someone like Green in the PFL. You know, the crochet boss.
Yeah.
And you know what? When I read that comment, I kind of had to do some soul searching. I was like, that's actually kind of disgustingly true. And then Green went a full 15 minutes against a guy who I guarantee you I'm going to catch one of these days because he's got awful in-fight decision-making and terrible cardio. And that's the reason I thought 9-1 was a good shot at him maybe getting a Hail Mary comeback late in that fight. And Tafon got starched in round 1. So I was like, you know what? Like, I was kind of right in hindsight to take a stab on the 9-1 guy and then not put my money on the minus 125. So it just, that gambler's intuition too, man. We got to be in tune with that little tingle on the back of your neck sometimes.
Yeah. Never forget the lessons that you've learned, you know, and if you go forward, always remembering those lessons, you're going to pare down those shit bets one by one as you go forward if you don't forget those lessons. Truth.
I forget way too many lessons, unfortunately, man. I have a tendency of stepping right back into it.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that too, dude.
Hey, Weezy, speaking of stepping into it, we've got our first fight of the night. Jessica Rose Clark taking on Julija Stoliarenko. And the Dog or Pass podcast has absolutely ruined me. Shout out to my guy, Paul Shag, because anytime I see this woman fight, all I can hear is Paul's voice saying Stoliarenko, because that's what he calls her. She is so bad. Jessica Rose Clark, 11-7, and we've got Julija, who is 9-6-1. Jessica Rose Clark, very physically strong, showed off some wrestling chops in her last couple fights. She's kind of turned into this tough and durable, grinding type of fighter, but she really struggled in her last fight with the judo hip toss. That's something that I've noticed, Wheezy. I don't know if you've seen this the same way I have, something that the stats won't really be able to tell you. But when you get these low-level women's MMA wrestlers, they still go for a ride when you've got some judo. You know, we've seen that with my girl, Sam Hughes. She just got thrown all around the cage when she fought a high-level judo practitioner because she wasn't quite at the point where she could counter that move. You give her somebody who doesn't have hip tosses, and she absolutely mauled them for 15 minutes. Keep an eye out for the judo hips. Julija Stoliarenko, this is the one who almost dies on the scale every single time that we see her. She's the one that fainted twice up there. She's a BJJ black belt. She accepts bottom position because she loves playing off of her back. But damn, does she have some good, dangerous hips off of her back, Wheezy? She is extremely adequate with that nasty armbar from guard we see in women's MMA. She does tend to block punches with her face a little bit when she's on the feet. However, she's going to 2-inch height and reach advantage in this spot. She will be the much larger individual, and she's the one who's facing a step down in competition. She's coming up against some decent women's MMA fighters on her record recently. And Jessica Rose Clark has been sidelined with some injuries. There's been some concerns. Julija was supposed to be kind of a big deal, man. She fought Yana Kunitskaya, Julia Avila, and Alexis Davis. Those are some big names. This is a spot where, and I know you're going to, start off with the orderlies. We both saw that tweet where they said this show is going to be, about 20 minutes worth of Wheezy just begging me not to bet on this show. But I see Jessica Rose Clark as the MMA betting darling this week, man. Everybody is on Rose Clark. And I almost think this should be a dog or pass spot, man. Got to shout out the Superbook sponsorship here. All the lines on this show are sponsored and brought to you by Superbook Sports. Jessica Rose Clark, a -140 favorite. Julija Stoliarenko is a +120 underdog. Wheezy, I think Julija can send Jessica Rose Clark for a ride. I think that accepting bottom position thing can be over this week, and she's got a woman who she can actually physically out-muscle and outmatch. And if that's the case, I don't see any reason why she can't handle someone like Jessica Rose Clark, who has an extremely limited skill set. This is a massive dog or pass spot for me, coming from a guy who cashed in on Jessica Rose Clark the last time around. I think the market has flipped. They've seen how terrible Julia looks in her last couple of fights against much better competition, and they're ready to jump on the first fighter that they see against her, and I just don't think Jessica Rose Clark is the one you should be doing it. Haven't bet a single thing on this card yet, Wheezy. Wanted to talk to you about some of the numbers, but damn, I'm not laying here, Wheezy. It is dog or pass for me.
Yeah, see, I laid -170 on Jessica Rose Clark last time around against Stephanie Egger. And Stephanie Egger is a, very credentialed judo player. And what did she do? She went in there and she fed her hips, okay? You don't ever feed a judo player your hips. You're going down. You're going to go for a ride. You're going to get tripped, swept, repped, or thrown. It's just how it goes, right? So what does she do? She's got a girl in front of her who is a judo under 21 European champion, and she doesn't box her. She takes her down, and Egger is very strong. She's very good off her back. She's got great arm bars. We've seen that on the tape from her. Just absolutely horrific fight IQ in the last performance from Jessica Rose Clark. And when somebody shows horrific fight IQ, I never lay juice on them ever again, because I laid juice on Jimmy Crute, not once, but twice. Shit haircut, shit bet. And what do? When he fights Jamal Hill, I do the same thing over again. And he's got that goddamn mullet again. And he goes out there and he doesn't shoot any takedowns, and he gets starched, just like he did against Anthony Smith. So I don't lay juice on fighters that show shit fight IQ. And when you're fighting Julija Stoliarenko, and she's a specialist who has won 7 out of her 9 fights from her back with an armbar, I want the fighter who's fighting that fighter to say, I'm going to stay on the feet, and I'm going to keep this a boxing match, because Jessica's got good stand-up. It's better than Julia's, and Jessica can absolutely be the one who decides whether this fight takes place on the ground or whether it takes place standing. The question is like, does Jessica realize that there are other ways to win fights other than just to wrestle and grind out your opponent? Because if she does realize that, she can win here, but she didn't get that against Egger. She didn't realize that against Egger. So I can't count on her to realize that here. I have a feeling she's going to take down Julia and wind up in her guard in the first round, and then you're going to be holding your breath, because this woman can get arm bars, plain and simple. When you have that many arm bar finishes, after you get 3 in a row, the next 4 women that you arm bar, they know that you're winning by armbar. They're working armbar defense. They just can't stop it. So, I'm not betting this fight. I think Jessica Rose Clark is by far the more well-rounded mixed martial artist. She should be able to win minutes on the feet. If she doesn't like how it's going on the feet, she should be able to take down Julia, get to half guard, and stay safe. But what if she winds up in Julia's guard? Can I count on her to stop an armbar? I couldn't count on her to do it against Egger. So I'm not going to count on her to do it this time. Maybe that finish only prop for Julia Stoliarenko here.
That's not a bad look.
Because she's a finisher. She's finished 8 of her 9 wins are finishes. Jessica Rose Clark only has 1 finish at the UFC level. The rest of hers are by decision. So maybe even the decision only prop on Jessica Rose Clark, the finish only prop on Stoliarenko. But I'm worried about Stoliarenko locking up an armbar here.
Weezy, those sound incredibly interesting to me. I actually think that the finish only on Stoliarenko might be the best way to approach this. And that's flying under the radar here a little bit, because I wouldn't trust Jessica Rose Clark decision only. That's her only path to victory. But I actually completely agree with Effie Any Action Sportscast here in the chat. I don't think the gap on the feet is as big as people think it is here. I completely agree. If you've seen any of the striking exchanges that Julia has been in, especially with like Alexis Davis, somebody with a massive amount of experience, someone like Julia Avila, she's got some pop in her punches, man. I mean, she is not defensively sound whatsoever, but she knows how to strike offensively. And I don't think Jessica Rose Clark is a slick defensive striker by any means. I think if this thing takes place on the feet, there's a very good chance it goes to a decision, and whoever's hitting bigger punches is probably going to get the nod. And that would be Julija, in my opinion. I think she's got more power. She's got more force. Honestly, I think this line's backwards, guys. I think Julija should be favored, and I know that sounds awful. An 0-4 fighter, if you're counting her Ultimate Fighter finale performance. Like, she has not won in the UFC, and she's getting her 5th crack at it here against somebody who's at least got a couple wins in the organization. Guys, it's a bad fight. It's a bad fight, but you've got one woman who has basically completely underperformed her entire career, another fighter who is overvalued at this point in her career, and you're giving me dog odds on one of them. Yeah, it's probably a pass, guys. You probably should not put your money on this one. But I do think it's going to be Julija finding a way to get her arm raised at the end of the day. And I'll probably have a taste of that sub prop, Wheezy, because her winning by meme armbar for women's MMA just sounds like par for the course on this one.
Yeah, it's how she wins. It's how she wins. And we've seen Jessica put herself into situations where she's going to make her opponent comfortable. So that's the way I'm looking at this fight. But at the end of the day, even though I think maybe the value was on Stoliarenko here, how does it look if I wind up losing this fight? You know, if Jessica Rose Clark goes out there, takes her down, beats her up, you know, wins the stand-up exchanges, and then I'm sitting there holding that ticket, and I gotta have that talk with myself, you know, like, what, you bet on an 0-4 fighter, you know, in the UFC, you just, and they weren't even giving you plus 200. So
you know how it looks, Wheezy? It looks like that's the first fight of the night on a big-ass epic card. You do a shot, and you move on.
That's right, man. That's right. That's right. You know, the bookies got to make the lines. We don't have to bet them.
Exactly. All right, everybody. So maybe going to get the orderlies knocking on my door here. We'll see if I get to the window with Julija. If the steam continues to move in the way it does on Jessica Rose Clark, You know I can't resist. Every single one of you in this chat knows that I am incapable of resisting. If I think it's dog or pass and they end up giving me plus 160 on Julija, it's happening. Like, there's no question. It's going to happen. And I'm going to be spending the rest of the week running from Uncle Wheezy with a sack of oranges looking for my ass. Next fight up, Brad Tavares taking on Dricus du Plessis. Some people like to call me Clintus du Plessis after he made his UFC debut. I think that's fun. I do think that's fun. We have a great fight here for the second fight of the night, Wheezy. Like, we're going to start off with a sketchy-ass women's MMA fight, but they are stepping on the gas right after that. This card is stacked. Brad Tavares, 19-6, the ultimate gatekeeper. Dricus du Plessis, 16-2, never been to a decision. This man is a finisher incarnate. Brad Tavares is extremely well-rounded. Good wrestling defense, 79% takedown defense. The get-up game is even more important than his takedown defense, in my opinion. Strong striking defense. However, every once in a while, he gets starched by these power punchers that come out of left field. His last 2 wins were over the PFL's best, Omari Akhmedov and Antonio Carlos Jr. When I call this guy the ultimate gatekeeper, I'm not kidding. Like, if you are going to challenge for a title, you damn well best be able to beat Brad Tavares. However, if you're not quite there yet, he's a good soldier. He will keep you at range. He will piece you apart. He will put a pace on you. Now, du Plessis seems to be, and right on cue, my guy, MMA Locker Room, got du Plessis at plus 115. Hey, if you got in on that plus money, if you got in early, I congratulate you guys because this line's going to flip. Du Plessis is the popular pick of the week, Wheezy. Like, money is flooding on du Plessis. Extremely aggressive striker, always coming forward, big power. He absolutely has dusted his first 2 opponents in the UFC, but he's so awkward on the feet. Like, blitz attacks in, chin is up, moves backward awkwardly. He kind of relies on the physicality of his takedowns. The technique isn't super there. He just kind of rips you and manhandles you to the floor, but he'll attack from anywhere, like constant submission attacks, whether he's on top, on bottom, in the middle of a scramble, he's rolling for Kimuras. I mean, he will try to finish you from any place possible, and then he'll catch you with one of these super awkward shots and just sit you down. Now, this is a spot where it's a big jump up in competition for Dricus. It's kind of par for the course for Brad Tavares, and I almost feel like Brad is getting just a little bit disrespected. Dricus has a 2-inch reach advantage here in this spot, but again, going back and rewatching his last 2 fights, he does not look good at all until the moment of the finish. So I, again, feel this is almost like the last fight, Wheezy. I think Brad Tavares is going to be in the driver's seat until he eats a power shot. Like, I don't have any belief that Dricus can out-grapple Brad Tavares. Brad Tavares trains with my guy Action Man. We saw what he was capable of in his last fight. This man knows how to defend a takedown, and he knows how to get up and after he's been taken down. So unless he gets caught by a big power shot, which I mentioned, Omari busted this guy up. He does get caught by these big power punchers sometimes. That's really kind of the only way I see this fight going. It's Brad Tavares, it's du Plessis by knockout. Those are really kind of the only 2 results I'm seeing, Wheezy. What about you?
This is such a great fight. Du Plessis, 18 fights, all of them have finished inside the distance. All 16 wins, both losses, So you got an all-action fighter here going up against a guy in Tavares who at the UFC level has 14 wins. 12 of them are by decision. So that's very important. When you have an archetype of fight like this, the records tell you everything you need to know about which guy is the better minute winner. Right. And you can see it on tape too. That's why you have to watch the tape and look at the stats. If you want to get the best picture of how the fight's going to play out, you got to go in depth into the stats because it'll tell you some of the things that you will see on tape about how somebody fights. And yeah, dude, that Dricus win against Marcus Perez, he's losing that fight. And then you look at the shot that lands and it looks lucky. And it's very clear that Marcus didn't see it coming. And when you get hit with something that you don't see it coming, it drops you. The nerve hits, the nerve behind your chin gets hit, you go to sleep. And then there was the fight against Giles, and god damn, is Trevin Giles bad or what? Every time I watch that fight, right? When you tape the du Plessis Giles fight, and I've watched it like 3 times. They come out, Giles comes out there, and I think I don't know if it's DC or who the announcer is like, and Trevin Giles says that he has the best jab in the UFC. And then I start screaming at the television, well, then fucking throw jabs.
Yep.
You know, how dumb do you have to be in order to actually have the audacity to tell the UFC announcers, I have the best jab in the UFC, and then not throw it at all? So, you know, the wins for du Plessis don't mean much to me right now. You know,
agreed.
He beat Marcus Perez, who's 2-5 in the UFC. He beat Trevin Giles, who, you know, I don't know what to think of that. And you brought it up. It's like the guy's losing the fight up until he wins it. It's another finish only prop for Dricus du Plessis. He's got 100% finish rate, and Brad Tavares at the UFC level has a 14% finish rate. And Brad Tavares has been knocked out in 3 of his 6 losses. So I like du Plessis by finish, potentially the finish only prop, so that if it does go to decision, you just get your money back. And then du Plessis, you know, he is well-rounded, but we don't have to worry about him taking down Brad Tavares and holding him down. He's not going to do that. That's just not on the menu. This is going to be a striking match as long as Brad wants to keep it that way. And if Brad feels uncomfortable on the feet, he might try to mix in the grappling to win minutes there. So, yeah, I think that if you think the fight's going to decision, maybe bet fight goes, maybe bet the Brad Tavares side. If you think it's going to finish inside the distance, bet that Dricus du Plessis side. But the best advice that I can give, I bet this fight already. Plus 105, fight doesn't go to decision, right? That's a 48% implied probability. 3-round, 185-pound fights are finishing 56% of the time, Clint. And then you got one combatant who has been in 18 fights, and none of those fights have ever seen the scorecard. So not only are you getting a 7 or an 8% edge over the implied probability of the line when you compare the divisional finish rate to that, but you're also getting one of the fighters who is finishing all of his fights for and against. So that's the best way to play this one. The analytics like it, the fact that du Plessis is a finisher and also gets finished, and the fact it's a 185-pound fight. These guys hit hard. So I like this fight to finish inside the distance. Fight doesn't go plus money.
I love it. I love that you point that out here, because that might be the money shot here on this fight. You know, looking back at du Plessis' record, you know, one thing that I really love about Brad Tavares, and something I tried to get in his last fight against Omari Akhmedov, is when he has, now he's not much of a finisher. We know this. He's mostly a decision guy, but he has a couple of round 3 TKOs. His wins are always late when he has the better gas tank over his opponent. He can knock and choke people out deep in the fight. Du Plessis, 2 losses, 1 by knockout, 1 by sub, both in the 3rd round. So maybe fight doesn't go the distance is the way to go. You can kind of expect du Plessis to be the one, you know, smashing Tavares, connecting with a big power shot eventually. But that round 3 sprinkle on my guy Brad Tavares may be something I take a look at for some degenerate action there, because if he does have the upper hand, like I kind of think he will, if he's able to kind of finesse his way, we've seen that du Plessis can fall apart late in fights. So that might be kind of the combo way I play this thing. I don't mind your look on the violence there.
Yeah, and you know, du Plessis is just such a great, fun fighter to watch. I really do think that this will finish inside the distance, and he better not be stupid and wrestle here, because he's going to be wasting his time, dude. Brad Tavares, you're not taking this dude down and holding him down. So I think that this fight probably takes place on the feet. Tavares got great leg kicks. Du Plessis has great leg kicks. I think they're going to be throwing bombs. I think somebody's going to get slept here.
I think that's a good call, Weezy. Maybe just don't pick a side on this one. Guys, a lot of you in the chat, I completely, absolutely leaned du Plessis early, and he just feels like the public dog to me. I know we've had a couple instances lately where it seems like all of us gamblers are on the same side. This really feels like one of those spots. I have yet to see anybody picking Brad Tavares. I know the line is steaming that way, so it kind of makes sense. We're all seeing the same thing, but damn, the bookies don't hand out free money. I tried to warn everybody last week. They hung a nice big juicy plus tag on Rodolfo Vieira. That was the trap spot of the week. So be careful, everybody. I'm not going to pile in right now with everybody else. We'll see how I feel as the week goes on. I'm going to say I will pick Duplessis, okay? Like, I'll join you guys. I will pick Duplessis for the sake of the show at this point. I am not married to that pick. I might change that, and I might even bet Brad Tavares later in the week if the line gets out of control. But I do think the under is maybe the look here.
Agreed.
All right. Moving right along, Wheezy, we got another good one. Prospect versus veteran. Jessica Evil Eye taking on Maycee Barber. I'm just glad they don't do open workouts anymore, Wheezy. I just don't ever need to hear anyone chant, "Here we go, Evil," ever again. When Jessica Eye tried to get the crowd amped up for her, and there were like 5 dudes in the room, and 2 of them were waiting for the next guy up to work out, and she was trying to get him chanting, "Here we go, Evil."
I missed that.
Oh my God. It was just so cringy. I mean, I'm sorry. When you make it to the UFC level, you know you've got fans. There are people out there that love them some Jessica Evil Eye. I've backed her a couple times, but nobody's showing up at open workouts for Jessica Eye. And when she tries to get the chant going for herself, it just, oh, it was painful. Like 2 people like tried to do it, and like one guy clapped along with it. It was sad. It was sad. Jessica Eye is now 15-10. Maycee the future Barber is 10-2. That should read 9-3, but you know, Sal D'Amato strikes again. Jessica Eye is 1-3 in her last 4. Honestly, man, I thought you could argue that she beat Maya in her last fight. The damage, I think, was the deciding factor in that one. It was a very close back and forth fight. She has a lot of plodding forward pressure. She does have a solid stiff jab on her. Nice activity, but she swings wild, man. 36% striking accuracy. She can't hit shit. She eats left head kicks for breakfast. And I know everyone remembers the knockout with Shevchenko, but if you watch the Maya fight, if you watch the Calvillo fight, they both landed flush left head kicks on her as well. The book has been written on that attack, and Jessica Eye has done nothing to patch up that defensive hole. She will have a 1-inch reach advantage here in this spot. Maycee Barber training with Faber. You got to feel that maybe she's finally starting to turn that corner. She had some high hopes of being the youngest champion of all time. Obviously got derailed by my girl Roxy, had the injury. Didn't quite pan out to be the super athlete we thought she was early on, but she's getting there. She relies on being more physical than her opponent. She's got a good body lock. She really did some work with that against Montana De La Rosa. Showed that she was the more physical person and just stuck to her guns, grinding game plan. And it worked out. She likes to bully people up against the cage. She finds her way to top position in wrestling scrambles and transitions. I hate to say it, Wheezy, but I'm starting to fall for Maycee Barber. She's been one of my cringy fade her. She's not quite what she's hyped to be fighters. And now she's starting to turn into my one of those turn the corner prospects where we try to time when that young fighter eventually puts it all together. This might be it. She had a good, valuable 15 minutes with Montana De La Rosa, and that kind of fight time, I think, does wonders for young MMA fighters. I'm very curious what your stats and what your numbers say on this one, but I really feel like this is kind of a handmade fight for Maycee Barber to be able to just maul Jessica Eye. What do you think?
So, okay, I think this fight's actually going to be a little bit closer than what the line says. But okay. I had money on Montana De La Rosa last time out against Maycee Barber. And, if we want to get better as gamblers, we always have to be looking through a very honest lens, when we make our bets. And when I watched that fight, I was like, man, Maycee looked great in that fight. And Maycee did exactly what she needed to do in order to put herself in a position where she was going to be more comfortable than Montana. She put her back up against the cage and she beat the shit out of her there, and she wouldn't let Montana take her down. Her takedown defense looked great. Her efficiency in winning minutes on the cage and being able to keep the fight in a place where Montana couldn't take her down, couldn't get on top. Really came in with a fantastic game plan, stuck to it, executed it perfectly, and won a clear decision in that fight. So, but Jessica Eye is a little bit different of a challenge here. Jessica Eye has fought everybody in the division, and a lot of those losses came at 135, a division that she had no business being at. She was just there before there was a 125-pound division in the UFC. And now that we've seen her there, you do see Jessica in a ton of close fights. Other than Shevchenko kicking her in the head and knocking her out, All of her other losses have been by decision. 9 UFC losses, 8 of them are by decision. Quite a few of them are split decisions too. And Maycee is not this awesome minute winner and moment winner. This is going to be a fight. When you watch Jessica Eye against strikers the level of Maycee Barber, she's walking forward. She's tough. She's got a good chin. She throws a lot of volume. She's just gritty. I think in a lot of ways, she's just a slightly taller, slightly thinner version of Maycee Barber. You know, Barber really works that clinch work really well. But, you know, Jessica is just as good as Barber is in the clinch as she is at walking forward and pressuring her opponents and making it a fight. She fights in there. She's not looking to outpoint you. She's looking to make you hurt. And I think that her style is very similar to Maycee's. And Maycee doesn't really commit to that grappling. And when I talk about grappling efficiency, I talk about things like this. Maycee Barber has attempted 25 takedowns. Her opponents have attempted 8. Okay, so she's got 3 takedown attempts for every one that her opponents attempt. Maycee Barber's got 8 takedowns and her opponents only have 3. So she's got like 3 takedowns for every one that her opponents get. Yet, Maycee Barber is getting out-controlled 27% to 20% in control time positions. So, and Jessica Eye, she's got 8 takedowns. Her opponents have 18. Jessica Eye has attempted 18 takedowns. Her opponents have attempted 42. But Jessica is actually allowing less control time than Maycee Barber is. So she, you know, you could take Jessica down, but you can't really hold her down. And while Barber's actually getting takedowns, her opponents are getting up. And when her opponents take her down, she's unable to get back up. So, you know, I think that's going to be close. I don't think I'm going to be laying juice on Maycee Barber here. I probably think she wins the fight. I'm impressed with her. She's continuing to get better. She's training not just at Alpha Male. She's also over there with Valley Flow Striking sometimes. You know, she's getting around. She's building up her skill set. She's at that age where she's going to be putting all these things together. The striking, the cage work, the wrestling, the conditioning, you know, the power. All those things are kind of coming together, and she's sticking to game plans that are working. I think she probably wins this fight, but I can't be laying the kind of juice that I need to lay on her in order to feel good about it. But I do feel good about this fight going to decision.
Okay. I like the read there, Wheezy. This fight is almost certainly going to decision, unless, of course, Uriah Faber gets Maycee Barber on that head kick train. But I do have one question for you. What are your thoughts on the OnlyFans fade?
Yeah, it's working lately, isn't it?
Right?
Yeah, it's definitely working lately. Kay Hansen kind of gave us that, you know, that was one of the last times I laid juice on women's MMA was when she lost to Jazz DeVicious. So, and then it was Corey McKenna put that final nail in the coffin there for, you know, Uncle, here lies Uncle Wheezy. He laid juice on women's MMA. So yeah, the OnlyFans fade is definitely working, but let's just go for some fun facts here. These ladies have lost a combined 11 fights at the UFC level. 10 of them are by decision. They're both very durable. Jessica Eye's only finished 1 of 5 wins. Barber's finished 4 of 6, but look at who she's finishing. So I think that this fight does go to decision, but it's juiced up to -265. So there's really not much we can do there. I'll pick Maycee Barber to win by decision, but I don't see me having any action on this one. It's a little wide.
Okay. Wheezy, you're kind of speaking my language over there, man, because when a fighter does have success against higher caliber opponents, especially when it's up a weight class, you know, if there's evil is the slightly bigger woman here, and someone in the chat asking regarding age, she's only 35. For women's MMA, you know, look at like Caitlin Chukagian. She's sticking around forever. We're never going to get rid of some of these ladies because the level of women's MMA is just so different from men's MMA. The wear and tear is different on their bodies. They can last longer. They just seem to stick around longer at the higher level. And because of that, if this is physicality versus physicality, I probably has the strength and the gas to be on par with someone like Barber. And I'm surprised to hear those control times, Wheezy, because if Jessica I is able to reverse a position or get on top, that could seal an entire round. It could just be done over, gone, and I could get her hand raised. And kind of like I mentioned before, some of those top contenders very recently, I has fought very well against. I thought she beat Jennifer Maia. She did lose to JoJo Calderwood, but again, this was a decision, and that was an even money pick'em price tag. You know, she fought tightly with Cynthia Calvillo. She beat Vivi Araujo. She won a split decision against Caitlin Chukagian just a couple of years ago before she fought Valentina Shevchenko. I don't know that I agree with that scorecard, but the fact is it was a split, so it was tight. This one might have my split decision props written all over it, Wheezy. This one might be the one, and we saw last week you get a big overblown women's MMA favorite in Jinyu Fry who's low volume and doesn't have a solid path to victory. Those fights get hairy and sometimes they go the other way. So you've kind of talked me out of thinking I'm super confident here on Maycee Barber. I've got enough reasons to be afraid of laying that kind of a chalk price tag on her.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Miranda Maverick was winning a lot of striking exchanges against Maycee Barber by just walking her down. You know, I mean,
Barber doesn't react well to getting hit either, really.
What's that?
Barber does not react well to getting hit. When she gets punched in the face, it's very clear that she's not used to it and she doesn't like it.
Yeah, she doesn't like it. But, you know, the thing is that if we're remembering that Maverick walked her down in one striking exchanges, what do you think Jessica I can do? Jessica I is a better striker than Miranda Maverick is at both points in their career right now. So I think Jessica can have even more success here. If I were to be making a bet on this fight, I'd probably be taking the underdog. But I do think that Maycee Barber will probably do enough to win here.
I hear you. All right, man. I think we've done enough damage on that one. Might have saved me from putting Maycee Barber in a parlay, which would have been one of the worst things I guess I possibly could have done. We'll find out. Come fight night. Next fight up, we've got Uriah Hall taking on André Muniz. And one of my absolute favorite fades in the game these days, Uriah Hall. This man, Wheezy, is your classic winning until he is not, or losing until he's winning. Like, he just gets frozen by everybody. He'll stand in front of you. He'll get outworked. He's tough. He's durable. He's gritty. But he will wait for that one shot to unload. And boy, when he unloads, this man is explosive. His power is unreal. But it's something he never, ever got past. Wheezy, like, I kept looking at this man going, he's got all the tools. He's got all the ability. One of these days, he's going to turn that corner. One of these days, he's going to put it all together. And like 2-3 fights ago, we got angry Uriah Hall. And I was like, okay, like, this is it. He's talking shit now. He's getting mad. Like, you hear him in the interviews. He's got a chip on his shoulder. This is going to be different. We're going to see him go on a tear. No, it's the exact same thing. He's a head case. He's a confidence fighter. When he's doing well, he takes over. When he is not doing well or his opponent is winning, he crumbles. So I can't trust Uriah Hall, even as an underdog. Like, I just don't want my money anywhere near him at this stage of his career. 37 years old, does well striking at range. He does have 65% takedown defense. If you remember his fight with Antonio Carlos Jr., he managed to win a split decision somehow. That was the night that I cashed a very lucky ticket on him because I don't think I deserved to get that ticket cashed in hindsight. He had his back control basically the entire time. Somehow won by striking over his shoulder like this, scored enough. The judges felt that he won the fight. Kind of on ACJ for doing nothing with the position. André Muniz will do something with the position, Uncle Wheezy. Now, I don't doubt Uriah Hall's submission defense. Obviously, with everything we've seen from him, especially the ACJ fight, I don't doubt Uriah Hall's submission defense, but I have been caught disrespecting André Muniz a few times already. I massively underestimated this man. Incredible BJJ. I thought when he broke the arm of what was his name?
Jacare.
He beat Jacare. Yeah, snapped Jacare's arm off. I was like, that's lucky. Like, that's Jacare being old. That's Jacare, just kind of getting young gunned here. He's not that good. He just, got a lucky break. I was so wrong, Wheezy. This kid is the genuine article. He is absolutely legit. He is so strong in the body lock, drags people to the mat. He mixes in nice little trips. His arm bars are filthy, and he's one of the only guys that actually goes for arm bars these days. Like, when have we seen a big man like this roll for arm bars the way that he does? And it's not from guard. Like, he sets them up from back takes and top positions, and it's insane. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage here, averaging 3.6 takedowns per 15 minutes with a, I got my numbers wrong here. I'm not sure what happened. I typed something weird, Wheezy. I'm sure you can tell me what his takedown accuracy is, but it's good.
It's 40%. André Muniz, 10 of 25, 40%.
Thank you. For some reason, it said 15%. My fat fingers must have gotten in the way on the keyboard there. Sorry about that. But at the end of the day, I just think that this is Muniz's fight to lose. He's the prospect. 22-4. The UFC is trying to get him a recognizable name on his career record at this point. Even if he does similar to what ACJ does, takes him down, backpacks him, holds position, I think he'll win a decision, even if he doesn't get the sub. But I think he's fully capable of being the guy to crack the code of Uriah Hall's submission defense. I think this is Muniz all day. Weezy, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, this guy is submitting everybody. And, you know, he's really good. I mean, he's really good on the ground. And the thing about Muniz that I don't think a lot of people realize is, like, for instance, when you look at the experience stats for this fight, Uriah Hall's only got one more professional fight than Muniz. You know, Muniz has been doing this for 13 years. You know, Hall's been doing it for 16, but Muniz has been doing it for 13. And then when you look at this guy's pre-UFC experience, he's losing the legitimate dudes. You know, like the names that he's losing to pre-UFC are UFC guys. So you realize, like, oh, wow, you know, this guy Muniz, he's been around for a while. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion, and he came to it a little bit later on, but this guy's been fighting people since before we knew him. And then you remember Uriah Hall. I can't remember a more feared fighter on the Ultimate Fighter show. You could see, like, I remember when they would be like, yeah, you're fighting Uriah next, and like these guys be like, oh, no, that's not a good fight. I should be fighting this guy, me and Uriah in the final. That's a good fight. You know, like people were shitting their pants after he spinning head kicked that Sella dude and sent him to the shadow realm. So striker versus grappler. Brilliant stuff here. I got to believe that this fight's going to finish inside the distance. Either Muniz gets hauled down and works that fantastic submission game of his, or Uriah Hall is able to keep it standing and lands that big shot, you know, that changes the fight. And André Muniz has been knocked out 4 times. So either Hall's getting him inside the distance, and I don't really care that Hall's never been submitted by anyone, because if Muniz gets him down, he's getting submitted. So I think fight doesn't go to decision is a great look. I love striker versus grappler fights, you know, because, you know, no matter where the fight goes, somebody's going to be live to finish it. You know, and that's what you like to see, like all those minutes in the cage, you know, where if it's striker versus striker and they both got power, what if the fight ends up being a grappling match? You know, they're not going to really be able to finish. But like this fight's on the feet, Uriah is dangerous. If this fight's on the you know, fence or on the ground, you know, Muniz is dangerous. Somebody's probably getting finished here. The fight doesn't go the best look. Other than that, I don't think there's really a whole lot of stats that stand out here. The strength of schedule's a lot better for Uriah Hall. You would think the experience is better for Hall. Not much. Just more UFC level experience. The size is very similar, you know? So yeah, I would say that this is, you know, if you like the grappler, pick Muniz. If you like the striker, pick Hall. But chances are this fight finishes inside the distance.
Wheezy, I love that look. So going over to Superbook Sports here, minus 265 for André Muniz, plus 225 the comeback for Uriah Hall. And I love what you're saying, because if he does have a tendency to get cracked on the chin, this could be a guy that gives Uriah Hall that mental click that he needs, saying, you know, if other guys can knock this guy out, I can too. And if he comes in sharp, ready to go, not afraid, he might throw a spinning heel kick and separate this guy's head from his shoulders. So I don't mind looking for violence rather than picking a side again here in this spot. You know what, Wheezy, we've seen that recently in the last 2 fight cards. I have felt so much better picking these totals. Like, some of these fights are close, but we still know how they're going to go. You know, 2 cards back, we had, 8 out of 11 fights that went under. I love betting violence. Let's take a shot at that. I'm going to pick Muniz for the win here, but I think when that line comes out, there's no total hanging at Superbook Sports right now. But if I can get fight doesn't go the distance, I think that might be the way I look here from a betting perspective.
I think that's the best way to go because, like I said, they're both dangerous, and then you have to predict which one of these guys is going to be successful to keep the fight where they're most dangerous. That's hard to do. What's easier to do is to say somebody's going to be dangerous no matter where this fight goes. And if they're going to be dangerous, there's a high percentage of a finish.
Agreed. I like that, Weezy. That's a great look there. All right, everybody. We have got over 300 live viewers on the show this evening. Let's freaking go. I think we got up to 340. I think that's the live show record. So everybody do me a favor and smash that like button. Hammer the absolute crap out of it. Let's break the show's record tonight. I think we've only got 84 thumbs up. Come on, folks. We're having way too much fun for 80 thumbs up when we've got 300 plus viewers. Real quick, we're going to hear a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back to knock out the rest of UFC 276. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. I'm your host, as always, your boy Clint. We are hosted here by Pub Sports Radio, and I'm joined by MMA's stat daddy, Uncle Weezy. Make sure you give this guy a follow over on Twitter. He puts up numbers. He tweets out a spreadsheet with the UFC fighters' stats and numbers for every matchup every week. This man is a gem, an absolute must follow for the MMA betting community. And big shout out, just because you asked for it, Double D. How's it going? Welcome to the show. Folks, we're talking UFC 276. We're going to give you our looks, our leans, our picks, our bets, our info. We want you to go out there, be adults, manage your bankroll safely. Make sure you don't gamble with any more than you can afford to lose. This is supposed to be fun, and make sure you make your own adult decisions. But we've got a banger, Weezy. I'm actually excited to talk about a Donald Cerrone fight. We have broken down Cerrone versus Lozon 7 times at this point, and I'm sick of talking about it. So finally, we get a new matchup. Donald Cerrone is taking on none other than Jim A-10 Miller. And I think this is actually a whole hell of a lot more fun, Weezy. So I've talked about how I've straight up slandered Donald Cerrone. In his last couple of fights, the man is on a skid. It's time to hang it up. He's inching for that retirement door. He's an absolute legend. I love the crap out of him. I wish he could fight forever. But the fact is, he's been competing at a high level for so long, it's catching him. And especially fighting at 185 has been a massive problem for this man. He cut weight, but he's just too small, Weezy. At 170 pounds, the boys up there have been able to do terrible, terrible things to him, unless your name is Mike Perry and you throw your arm out there for the man to snap off. But what he's got here is a third fight in, 4 weeks, where it's fallen apart a couple times. A-10 Miller has decided to step up here on short notice, and because of the multiple weight cuts, Weezy, we're fighting at 170 pounds. Yeah. That is a massive advantage for Donald Cerrone. I don't understand why this isn't being talked about by more people. Donald Cerrone at 170 is going to be healthy, Weezy. The weight cut is not going to be a problem. He won't be sucked out. He won't be exhausted. He won't be tired. He won't be angry. He'll have a belly full of noodles on weigh-in day. Like, he's going to be good to go. And Jim Miller, as much as I love the guy, he is still round one Miller. We see this guy go balls to the wall, and if he doesn't finish you early, he either gets decisioned or he gets finished. Now, he's a massively high-level BJJ black belt. Submitted Clay Guida in round 1, Roosevelt Roberts in round 1. And then after, a couple of rough patches, he comes out and KOs Eric Gonzalez and Nicholas Mata. Both those in round 2. In the first 2 minutes of round 2, though, I want to make sure everyone is aware of the fact that those came out at the very beginning of round 2. And here we are in a spot where a lot of us thought Joe Lozon was the side. Everybody thought piling on Joe Lozon at dog odds was going to be the way to go. Everybody was betting the under. That was definitely the cult pick of the week. But now we've got Jim Miller as a minus 210 favorite over Donald Cerrone, who's a plus 180 underdog. And I'm just confused. 170 favors Donald Cerrone. Jim Miller really only wins by finish in the first round. Now, these two guys that he's fought recently, the Ghost Pepper and Nicholas Mata, that was a Dana White Contender Series fade spot. The DWCS boys do not win their first fight in the UFC. So we all should have known better than getting on Jim Miller against Nicholas Mata. Everyone thought Mata was just going to steamroll right through him. Jim showed him what's up. Eric Gonzalez, I think the guy's fun. The Ghost Pepper is maybe my favorite MMA nickname of all time, but I don't know that he's even UFC caliber. So when you compare their resumes, we've got Jim Miller snapping off a couple of guys who are not ready versus Donald Cerrone, who is getting beaten by UFC caliber opponents. I know the Pettis fight was one that he should have won. I have no idea how Pettis won that fight. Conor McGregor gets him out of there in round 1. Justin Gaethje gets him out of there in round 1. Okay. Alex Morono, who is a legit 170 pounder, gets him out of there in round 1. But this is a man who Donald Cerrone owns a win over already. And if you go back and you watch their first fight, Jim Miller cannot close the distance, Wheezy. Donald Cerrone keeps him at bays with kicks and knees and body shots, and Jim completely falls apart from that damage in round 2. I don't know why everyone's expecting the rematch is going to go so differently. I know we like to zigzag when it comes to rematches. I know that not every fight ends the same way the first fight did. That's something that I myself have preached here on this show. But looking at what these guys have been through, I don't think that Jim Miller can bum rush Cerrone the same way that Morono did. I don't think that Jim Miller is going to drag Cerrone into round 2 and then have more gas in the tank than him in the second round at 170 pounds. I'm extremely confused here, Wheezy. Maybe you can help me out. I think the world is going to pile in on Jim Miller here, and I think Cerrone is an undervalued commodity this week, and I may go to war one final time with the Cowboy. What are you doing, Wheezy?
Yeah, so, everything that you say makes sense to me. I think if we look at this fight in a vacuum where we're not talking about any narrative shit, we're not talking about the movies that people are making, we're not talking about is one foot out the door, are both feet out the door, is retirement next. If you remove all that talk and you say Donald Cerrone is fighting Jim Miller at 170, Cerrone should be minus 175 to minus 200. Okay? If we look at how Jim Miller wins fights, right? He wins via submission. He gets takedowns. He winds up in a scramble, and he submits dudes. You're not taking Donald Cerrone down. This guy has got 90% takedown defense, and that's at 170 pounds. Jim Miller has 39 UFC fights. You know how many takedowns he has? 41. So it's not like Jim Miller is this guy that's going out there getting 3 takedowns a fight. As a matter of fact, he's barely shooting 2 takedowns per fight, shooting them, not necessarily getting them. And his control time, 23%. For a grappler, that's not great. Let's talk about Donald Cerrone's 37 UFC fights. You know how much time he spends in control time positions, Clint? 16%. That's less than 1/6 of his fights take place in control time positions. So is Jim Miller taking down a guy with 90% takedown defense? No, probably not. Is he going to outbox a dude who's 5 inches taller than him and has a 2-inch reach advantage? Probably not, because Cerrone's the better striker. If you're betting Jim Miller at minus 210, just admit that you don't think he's the better fighter. You just think Donald Cerrone has 2 feet out the door and he's showing up for a paycheck. That's what this line comes down to. There's nobody that's looking at this line right now and saying, yeah, Miller's so much better everywhere than Donald Cerrone that I'm willing to lay 68% implied probability to say that he wins this fight. He's not better, So this is a bet. You're betting that Donald Cerrone's washed, and you don't really know what's in Cerrone's heart. You might have an idea, but that dude has made weight for both of his last fights. 155-pound weight. He came all the way from Thailand. So I think he's ready to fight. I'm not pretending to know what's in his heart. All I can do is look at their prior experience, watch the tape, break down the stylistic fight, and I say that this should be Cerrone. But do I want to lay money on Cerrone, even if I'm getting plus money, and then find out, oh, yeah, he did have 2 feet out the door. He was just showing up for a paycheck. That's what this fight is about. So it kind of feels like a 1-800-GAMBLER fight for me because I don't know Donald Cerrone personally. If I were to, message him on Twitter, I don't think he'd give me an interview and be honest with me about, what he's looking to do in this fight. So I'm just guessing. I would probably take the plus money on Cerrone before I would lay juice on Jim Miller. I think Jim Miller's heart's in it more at this point. But if you're asking me who's the better fighter, I think it's Cerrone.
Okay. All right, Weezy. I like it. Hey, shout out to my guy, Walla Walla Dose. What's up, buddy? Gonna get caught up there. Thank you very much for tuning in, my friend. One of the OGs here in the chat. SD Cruiser liking what I'm saying, riding with Cerrone one last time. And hey, Gino, I see your comments here in the chat. Bro, just real quick, we got 2 rules here. No sexism, racism, politics, blah, 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 whatever, all the bad stuff we don't want to talk about. Strictly MMA. And no spam. Those are the 2 things. So if we don't get to your question, it's because we've either already addressed it or it's because we're not going to address it. So don't just keep rapid firing it. But I did already say that I feel like 170 plays a massive advantage towards Donald Cerrone. I think that's a big, big factor for this fight that people are really not paying close enough attention to. Jim Miller is only a 155er. Cerrone in his prime was cut into 155. He's got wins at 170. He fought competitively with guys at 170. He is definitely a guy that can gain something from the extra weight, whereas Miller, I think, does his damage and his best work at that lower weight class, and he's going to be at a large size difference here. We've got Cerrone with a 2-inch reach advantage, and I'm not even looking at the height numbers. He's the much bigger man. Weezy, I think we're onto something here. I really have, you know what? I usually save the tinfoil hat for the Friday show. That's when we bust this bad boy out. But there is one narrative thing that we need to make mention of here, Weezy, because that makes all the difference in the mentality, I think, for a Donald Cerrone. These boys are going heads up for the UFC record for most wins. They have been competing, racing one another to see who will take the lead in the race for most UFC wins of all time. So the loser of this fight is going to walk away down one of those all-important numbers as they're wrapping their careers up. I think that gets Donald Cerrone out of bed. I think that's the kind of fight that gets this man up in the morning to go ahead and get there and get a W. And on top of that, like I said, that confidence in your back pocket, he's not fighting a big, mean 170-pounder. He's not fighting a Conor McGregor that the UFC is pushing and running promos for.
Yeah.
He's fighting a guy he already beat. He's fighting a guy he already kicked to hell. I think that Donald Cerrone may show up and get this thing done. And at plus 180, Wheezy, I'm doing it. I'm going to see if this line moves. I know everybody and their mom is on Jim Miller. I think this is the trap spot of the week. So I'm going to see if I can get plus 200. But if this thing ticks down to plus 175, I'm jumping in on Cerrone at the earliest opportunity because that's the side I want to be on.
Yeah, I think you can wait, dude. I mean, I think people really let the narratives run away with things when they're betting. And look, you can tell it's perfect evidence. Just look at the first 2 Cerrone-Lozon fights. Cerrone's the favorite in the first fight, and then he gets food poisoning, has to pull out the day of. They do the fight 3 weeks later, and then Cerrone's the dog, and then everybody's on Lozon. What changed? Nothing. It's just 3 weeks further down the road that nothing changed. Joe Lozon's still 38. Donald Cerrone's still 39. You know, they're both still washed, you know, and now all of a sudden, and it's the narrative driving the line. And if you want to chase narratives, dude, be my guest. But it's a bad way to bet because guess what? People lie in interviews. Plain and simple. You ever been at a poker table? Or whatever emotion you're showing at that poker table is what you want your opponent to see. Nobody's ever honest at a poker table. So if you're a fighter and you're talking to James Lynch, I mean, are you going to be honest with him? Are you going to be honest with him about your game plan, about where you are in your life? Oh, you know, like I remember not too long ago, everybody got on the Brandon Jenkins KO line because Carclo said, I'm still feeling the effects of that Jeremy Stevens shove. And then he went in there and kicked the shit out of Brandon Jenkins from pillar to post. And I was right there with you. I put a very small sprinkle on it. Didn't lose me any sleep. But like, man, I'm like, if this guy's still feeling the effects of that shove, Jenkins hits hard. I'm getting 12-1. But it doesn't matter. Close wouldn't say something like that. I'm still feeling the effects of that shove. If he was still feeling the effects of that shove, you'd think he would be that dumb to be honest about it? No, he lied. He lied. And then money came in on the other side. He probably bet himself and he went out there and he smoked that dude. So yeah, I don't listen to interviews. I try not to follow narratives because what you see in the cage from these guys is the most honest representation of their body of work. And that's what you put your money on.
It's true. It is true, Weezy. All right, we got through that one, folks. That's a big one. I'm excited for that fight. I can't wait to see how that turned out. We got 361 live viewers. That's what's up. Thank you all so much for jumping in here on the show. I believe that's a show record, everybody. So thank you very much for tuning in live here to the Die Hard MMA podcast. Make sure you subscribe to Pup Sports Radio if you haven't already. Garry taking on Gabe Green coming up next here. And this one, Weezy, seems like, I mean, I might need to get the tinfoil hat back out for this one. This is a spot where, quite obviously, the UFC likes their boy, 9-0, undefeated, shiny Garry. But he's taken on everybody's favorite junkyard dog in Gabe Green, who is 11-3. Garry is tall. He is long. He's one of these fighters that knows very well how to use that reach. Lots of side-to-side movement. He gets you chasing him. He makes you follow up, and then he sets something up. He's got a nasty head kick. He likes to attack the low calf. Good, solid power in his right hand. A nice, sexy jab. He showed some really good takedown defense, some good hips, good balance against Darian Weeks. But he really also kind of relies on his head movement a little bit too much for me. A little bit of the tall man defense just barely gets out of the way of some of these punches. And if somebody manages to time it just right, I do think Garry eventually is going to get that planted on his butt KO. Gabe Green, high volume, great gas tank, made his UFC debut against Rodriguez and really impressed. That's one of those ones where everyone thought that he was going to just be meat at the end of that fight. And he showed up. He had moments in that fight, and now he's gone on a 2-fight win streak. So he's 2-1 in the UFC, wins over Rowe, which really lands, big with me. I'm a Phil Rowe guy. The Phil Rowe win means a lot. And then that beautiful performance against Johan Lainez, I bet him there. The fact he was able to survive when he did, ate those big power shots, rolled with the punches, and then came back and just cooked the man. You love to see it. Green just got promoted to BJJ brown belt. He's got a great gas tank and uses it as a weapon, just refuses to die. This guy's durable as fuck. Man, if you fade on Green, he will end you. He makes you pay if you slow down at all. He's kind of a Chris Curtis prototype, in my opinion. I'm tempted to go right back to the well with my guy Gabe Green, Weezy. I know the shiny toy is Garry. I know everybody loves this kid. I know he's got the skills. He seems like he's got it all together. Opened up about -150. He's sitting about -165 in some markets. Superbook still has him hanging at -150, though. If anybody's looking for a lower price tag on him, you can get +135, +140-ish on Gabe Green. Right now he's +130 over at Superbook. And I am tempted, Weezy. I am tempted on the dog. I am 2-0 with him since jumping on the train after he took that L against Rodriguez. I am not entirely sold on Garry. I think this is the kind of fighter who can cook a young prospect over the course of 15 minutes. Garry absolutely could be the goods. maybe he keeps this at range. Maybe he pieces him up and hurts him early. But if this fight goes late, I'm kind of expecting Gabe Green to take over rounds 2 and 3, maybe even hurt and finish this guy deep in the fight in that 3rd round. What do you think here?
Yeah, the thing about Garry is I don't think he's going to get tired. You know, this guy's tough. And we saw Liness as a guy who's getting a bunch of 1st and 2nd round knockouts, and he gets them early, and he needs to have that power in order to survive. And he hurt Gabe Green, and he almost finished him in the 1st, but he ran out of gas. And that's not going to happen to Ian Garry. If Ian Garry hurts you in the 1st, he's going to still be there in the 2nd and the 3rd. And that's the big difference. That's the difference between Liness and Gabe Green here. I'm sorry, Ian Garry here. So Green is a really good grappler. I'm surprised that he's only a brown belt, to be honest with you. When you watch this guy in the regional scene, he's a very dangerous, very aggressive submission grappler. The takedown defense isn't good, though. It's not good, and that's a problem. I don't know if we're going to see Ian Garry go to the wrestling here. He didn't have to go to it against Jordan Williams or Darian Weeks. And you're probably not taking Darian Weeks down. Darian Weeks is a very good wrestler. But Ian Garry has attempted 0 takedowns so far at the UFC level, and he's only had 4 attempted against him. Like you said, Green walks forward like a zombie. He uses his conditioning and volume as weapons, and I love fighters like that. But he's going to be at a serious size disadvantage here. And he does get caught. He eats some big shots on the feet. And I kind of feel like if that pressure ever really starts getting to Garry, Garry can shoot takedowns and get him. You know, but I haven't seen much of that from Ian Garry yet. So I can't count on it. So that feels like I can't really lay the juice on Garry here, but I'm worried because I went back and I watched that Philip Rowe fight, right? And I remember Gabe Green almost getting him out of there. But what I don't remember is Phil Rowe taking this guy down whenever he wanted to and winning a bunch of minutes on the ground. And that was a problem for me because, you know, I feel like if this stays on the feet, it's going to be greasy and it's going to be close. But I feel like if Ian Garry can take down Gabe Green, that he can have that option whenever he doesn't like how it's going on the feet in order to release that pressure, in order to take a deep breath, and then let Gabe Green back up and then use that size advantage that he is going to have. If there's one guy who I think can close the distance on Ian Garry, it's Gabe Green, you know, because he's going to be the smaller dude. There's going to be a huge size difference between these guys. And Garry does a great job with his lateral movement of being able to maintain that distance, use the kicks, keep his opponent at a range where he's going to be comfortable. But Gabe's going to be walking forward. I think he's going to walk onto something here, or I think he's going to walk into takedowns. So I'm you know, before I taped the fight, you know, I was like, oh man, this plus money on Green is juicy. But I'm seeing holes. I'm seeing holes that I don't like to see. I think I'm going to have to pick Ian Garry to win this by decision.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Wheezy, I'm leaning towards the dog. We'll see where this line goes. I haven't pulled the trigger on anything here just yet. But Gabe Green is the kind of guy that I like to fade these prospects with. You know what I mean? I understand he's got holes in his game, but he's just going to make this dirty. And I don't know if Ian Garry can fight dirty. I know Ian Garry can fight clean. I know if you are technical and you come at him the right way, he can defend that. He can survive that. He knows what to do there. But if you make this a dog fight, I don't know if he's going to be the guy that's the bigger dog in the cage anymore. And that's where I like me some Gabe Green. So Wheezy leaning favorite. I'm leaning with the dog. Shout out with my guy, Mark Schillenberg, for the donation. Thank you guys for all the hard work and content. Two of the best. Thank you, Mark. We appreciate the donation. We appreciate the shout out. And you know what? I had a very interesting proposition from Deakins 002 here. Deakins? Yeah, Deakins. Got to be Deakins saying, Clint, fireball shot if we get to 150 likes. So I just had my wife go ahead and prep me here. Got a double shot waiting right here for me. The catch is you guys are at 148 likes already. So 150 is easy. 150 is cake. I'm going to need 200. You guys get me up to 200 likes on this show and you get a shot going down the pipe. So there you go. We can get
I'll join you. I will go into the other room. I will get my tequila that goes into my Palomas that I pour myself every Tuesday night for just the tip with your Uncle Wheezy, and I will join you in a shot. If we get to 200 likes, man.
All right, you get a double shot from both of us here if we get up to 200. So everybody get working on that while we get started on this next fight breakdown, and it's a good one. Robbie Lawler taking on Bryan Barberena. Oh, baby. So ruthless Robbie Lawler making his return to the cage. Bryan Barberena has been bribed by the UFC. He is coming back for another fight here. Wheezy, this has got everybody up in arms. You know, we had the Rodolfo Vieira with Chris Curtis Civil War on Twitter last week. Yeah. It feels like this is kind of the Civil War fight for this week. Lawler is 29-15, just one of the legends of the sport. Bryan Barberena, 17-8, a UFC mainstay. I don't know if he's reached legendary status just yet. One of those middle of the road guys that's put on a million fun fights, but never quite made it to the strap. So I don't know if he'll quite hit that legend status, but Lawler's going to be a Hall of Famer one of these days. Lawler snapped a 4-fight skid with a win over Diaz. And to be frank, Diaz quit in that fight. He hung it up. He called it a day. He just didn't want to be there anymore. But honestly, I saw some good things from Robbie Lawler. When Diaz was still trying early on in that fight, he was rolling with the punches. He was ripping big power shots. And when he had his opponent hurt, he went for the kill, Wheezy. It was good old-fashioned Robbie Lawler. It's like he didn't miss a beat. Now, I know he was facing an opponent who wasn't all the way there, but he showed all the signs we need to see of a fighter who still at least got a little bit of gas in the tank. It wasn't a decision where they both kind of, you know, Frank Mir, Crow Cop-esque, where they were pinned up against the cage, whispering into each other's ears between moments of the fight. No, he went out there and killed a man. Now, his 4 losses were coming from Neil Magny, who, again, this is not the Neil Magny that we just saw take on Shavkat Rakhmonov, but years ago, Neil Magny, the guy that was hunting for a contender spot. Colby Covington, the number 2 guy in the weight class. Rafael Dos Anjos, arguably one of the best lightweights of all time, who still was a top 5 170-pounder. And then he did get the fluke choke off of Askren, which, you know, we can still debate until the cows come home on that one. Who knows if he was unconscious or if he was actually fine there. After what we've seen the last couple of fights from Askren, I'm going to say he was probably fine. And really, he just got absolutely stuffed by Neil Magny in the grappling for the first 2 rounds. And he was actually the stronger man in that 3rd round against Neil Magny. He took Magny down. He got on top of Magny. He had Magny in trouble. Like, that was a spot where that fight got extremely hairy against a very top competitor in Neil Magny. And he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage in this spot. Bryan Barberena, I thought he was going to die a couple fights ago in the cage. His durability looks like it's gone, but somehow he's 3-1 in his last 4. He was in an old man slobber knocker with Matt Brown. Both guys really exhausted by round 2, barely able to keep their hands up, swinging for the fences to try to get each other out of there. And honestly, Wheezy, he was talking about being ready to walk away and be done after that fight. He got a greasy win over Matt Brown in his last fight, and he said, "I'm retired. Unless the UFC wants to give me a name and give me a payday, I'm happy. I'm ready to hang it up." And most of you know my take on retiring fighters. You got one foot in the grave if you're talking retirement and then stepping into the cage. You're not all the way invested. Now, maybe this was mind games. Maybe this was him just arguing for a better paycheck. But the fact that I think Bryan Barberena has shown some chinks in the durability, shown some chinks in the gas tank. His most recent win is over an exhausted, broken, and beaten Matt Brown. I'm still not ready to just say he should steamroll Robbie Lawler in this spot, Wheezy. We have got a very close line. Barb is a plus 100 even money underdog. Robbie Lawler is a minus 120 favorite. And I'm kind of leaning with the favorite here in this spot, Wheezy. Before I pass it over to you, the chat has notified me that we have hit over 200 likes. God, we've got wild shots and start drinking. 200, let's fucking go. 205, let's start chugging, boys. So, Wheezy, I'm going to kick it over to you, and I'm going to get chugging for the people.
All right, man. Well, and then when I'm done, I'm going to go get my tequila for you guys. But
we'll swap up. That sounds fair.
Absolutely.
Cheers, everybody.
Yeah, man. Let's just go through some stats here. Robbie Lawler, 20 more pro fights, 10 more fights at the UFC level, 125 more minutes in the UFC cage, almost 200 more minutes in the pro cage. Robbie Lawler finishing at a 75% rate. Bryan Barberena finishing at a 75% rate.
I gotta put those in the
fridge. Nice one. Yeah, it's smooth, isn't it?
They're dry though. It's hot.
Smooth. Yeah, so Barberena getting finished in 3 of 8 losses. It looks like 53% for Lawler, so 8 of 15 losses for Lawler. Lawler absorbs about 1 more significant strike than he lands per minute. Barberena lands almost 1 more significant strike per minute than he absorbs. Barberena a little more accurate. Both of them getting about a half knockdown per 15 minutes. Both of them pretty durable, getting 0.26 knockdowns and 0.1 knockdowns against. So they're not really getting that hurt out there. Lawler doesn't really wrestle. Neither does Barberena. They both stuff a ton of takedowns. They both get wrestled a lot. But what I think we're going to see here is 2 guys standing in front of each other, banging, swinging. And they're both very durable. You know, it's going to be a really fun fight. But it's another situation where I've got a 40-year-old man. I don't know what's in his heart. And I know that the 33-year-old man might even be closer to retirement than Lawler is. Yeah. Because, you know, he's had back surgeries. You know, that most recent back surgery that he had before he came back for the Witt fight, you know, he was talking about that ending his career, you know. And when you're having surgeries that severe in your 30s and you've already been a cage fighter, who knows how much he's got left in the tank, man. So this feels like, to me, I'd be betting violence if I had to bet it, but I don't know which Robbie Lawler is showing up here. I don't even know which Barberena is showing up. So I'm going to stay away from this one, but I'm going to enjoy the shit out of this fight because I don't see how it's boring. I don't see how it's boring. How could it possibly be boring? This is going to be a great one.
I completely agree with you, Weezy. I love this fight. It's going to be an absolute blast. And I'm picking Robbie Lawler. I'm definitely not going with the guy that talked about retirement most recently. This is one where I'm going to actually listen to these fighters' interviews. I want to know what's in these guys' hearts. I want to know what's in these guys' heads. I want the mentality, who's coming in hot, who's just grateful to be there, who's looking for a paycheck. Those are the kind of things I want to find out for this one. But I'm definitely, excuse me. Geez, you guys are going to get Fireball Clint on the rest of the show here now. I'm definitely looking towards Robbie Lawler here. And I'm surprised that the last fight didn't finish. I was really shocked by Matt Brown's wrestling heavy game plan. So I actually kind of think we're going to get a half decent number on this fight to have some violence in it, Weezy, because I fully expected Matt Brown to come out and bang with Bryan Barberena. I thought one of these guys was going to get a cracked chin and go down. It almost happened in that 3rd round. I don't see why this fight doesn't have that same air around it, except, you know, last fight, Matt Brown surprised us all with the wrestling game plan. I don't know that either of these guys are coming in grapple heavy in this fight. I think someone's probably going to get slugged and lay down on the canvas in the middle of this one. The under 2.5 is plus 140. That's got my attention, Weezy. I might look at violence in this spot.
So let's take a look at that bet then. You said the under 2.5 is minus 240, did you say?
Plus 140.
Plus 140 for the under. Okay. So that's a 41.67% implied probability. Under 2.5 happens 44.34% of the time at the 170-pound weight class. We got 2 older guys here who have finished 12 of their 21 wins inside the distance at the UFC level, 7 of their 15 losses inside the distance. So these guys are finishing at a 53% rate. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at only a 42% implied probability. We got 2 guys here who towards the end of their careers might look for the way out. Fight doesn't go to decision. Looks like a nice bet for me, especially at plus money.
I like that.
Because I don't see them wrestling, right?
Exactly. I just don't see them wrestling. And if they do wrestle, I mean, the way Robbie Lawler was beating up Neil Magny in the 3rd round of his fight, I'm not sure Bryan Barberena's got the durability to deal with that. You can say the same for the reverse. A lot of people have been saying that Lawler is chinny in the chat here, but Labyrinth is coming up saying Lawler's only been knocked out one time in the last 16 years. You know, that durability fades. It does happen. Eventually, these guys' chins crack. They just can't take it anymore, but it really hasn't happened yet with Lawler. So I'm predicting Lawler KO. I might be going violence here, just straight up under on this one. I might be talked into Lawler money line at -120, or if this thing flips and I can get plus money on him straight. I'm looking at Lawler. I'm looking at violence.
Yeah, I'm leaning Lawler, but I do like the plus money for fight doesn't go. And for the under 2.5 at plus 140, I think that's a cheeky bet, man. I could see that there being a finish here. And it's always better to be on that plus money side, too. You know, at least you could say, well, it was plus money, you know. It's the -300 bets that you don't cash. Those are the ones that leave a mark.
Oh, don't remind me about the minus chalk bets, Wheezy. Oh,
we can write a book about it, Clint, you and I.
We could, Wheezy, one of these days. I think, yeah, well, there we go. I was just going to say, I think we got a shot coming up for the people, though.
Yes, sir. This is shot number 2. I already did one, but you know, it's Monday night. You got to be drinking by now, right?
It's a special day. There we go. Now we're talking. All right, folks. Thank you very much for getting us up to our new record here of live viewers. Thank you for smashing the like button for us. I probably shouldn't reward you guys likes for drinks because my liver will end up killing me here in about 2 months, but we'll see. This could be a thing. Brad Riddell taking on Jalin Turner coming up next here, Wheezy. I love this fight. I mean, part of me hates this fight because these are my boys. I've gone to war with both of these guys on multiple occasions. Now, real quick, I'm pretty excited, Wheezy. I've found a new addiction beyond the gambling, which is collecting the UFC cards. And I got myself a nice, shiny Jalin Turner very recently. This bad boy is 22 of 299. So it's not one of the, you know, average ones. It's a little bit rarer than most. I'm pretty excited about that. Jalin Turner is a guy who I've had a good read on. I've been extremely excited about. We cashed that 9-1 sub prop with him. I mean, I'm all about some Jalin Turner. And I am just so ready to load up here at -125 against Brad Riddell, who is a +105 underdog. The only problem is I feel like we might have a little bit of recency bias here. I see Jalin Turner is a very popular pick around the Twitter sphere. 12-5, taking on 10-2. Brad Riddell, man, he has fought a tough row of fighters in the UFC. This almost feels like a spot to me where the UFC is saying put up or shut up. We know Turner has some serious upside. We know he's a prospect. We thought that Brad Riddell was really going to be a title contender, but then he got wheel-kicked by Rafael Fiziev. And so it's kind of a put up or shut up spot for Brad Riddell. You know, eating that second loss really kind of takes him a step down. Turner is on a 4-fight win streak. And if he comes in here and finishes Brad Riddell, he is leaping straight up into the contender series ranks. All 4 of those wins coming by finish, by the way. I love how viciously violent this man is. BJJ black belt. Nasty submissions, 6-inch reach advantage, 76% takedown defense. And man, he's got some power in his hands. What I really like about Jalin Turner, Wheezy, is how he switches ranges. He goes from firing these long shots down the pipe at you to knees and elbows as soon as you get in close to him. His fight with Jamie Mullarkey, Wheezy. Oh, I was on Turner pretty big against Jamie Mullarkey. And I thought he was going to win that fight. He is a little bit lacking in the defense. He took a couple shots in the pocket that I would rather him not have taken. However, he nearly killed a man that night, Wheezy. If you go back and you rewatch the Turner and Mullarkey fight, that knockout was scary. Like, these are professional fighters, some of the toughest human beings on the planet. And even when they get knocked out, they just kind of come to most of the time. They don't know where they're at, you know, that kind of thing. But I mean, Mullarkey was in obvious pain. Like, they had to like take the cameras off of him because you could see him starting to break and cry after he got knocked out, after he came to. Like, he got knocked out cold, came to, and was starting to like make noises that were terrifying, and they cut away from that. Jalin Turner is no joke. Brad Riddell does his best work in the pocket, Wheezy. You see him with guys, little compact dudes like Rafael Fiziev. He likes to wing hooks in tight, in close. And like I said, Jalen's been caught by a couple of those. I'm a little bit worried about if he gets a little too close to Brad Riddell. But Riddell really struggled with the range of someone like Alex Da Silva. Now, Da Silva's a one-round guy, right? Da Silva's only going to last one round, and then he fades. We know that about him now. He's not with the company anymore. Brad Riddell likes to steal rounds by getting takedowns. And I think that the jiu-jitsu credentials and the takedown defense of Turner are something that will make him think twice about that. So if we're going to have another barn burner war, how many can Brad Riddell take? Like you look at his last couple fights, and the damage finally accumulated against, granted, an absolute stud in Rafael Fiziev, but he went to war with Mustafayev. He went to war with Alex Da Silva. He went to war with Drew Dober. Like, this guy doesn't know anything but firefight. And I feel like that's a bad sign going up with the finishing upside of Jalin Turner. I got the tarantula here, Wheezy. I think that's the side that I want to bet, but I recognize that this could very much be a recency bias spot where you're getting a plus line on a guy in Brad Riddell, who I personally have looked to back when I get a cheap price tag on him. And Bootsy, Nick is noticing that Bootsy's going off in the background. We got to wonder what that means for the underdog here, Wheezy. What do you think? What do you got for me?
The German Rottweiler loves the Australian kickboxer tonight, and he loves Brad Riddell.
Can't say I blame him.
Yeah. I'm terrified of Jalin Turner, though. There are weight classes for a reason. How the hell does this guy make 155? He's got to be cheating, right?
I got something for you, Wheezy. I got something for you.
Because I want to know. I want to know how the hell a guy that's 1 inch taller than me, dude. When I was at my skinniest, right, and I would love to have Jalin Turner's muscle tone. Okay, when I was at my skinniest, I was 205. This guy's 60 pounds lighter than me, and he's more muscular than me, and he's 1 inch taller than me. That's Darren Wynn? Is that him with Darren Wynn?
That's him with Darren Wynn. And the caption on the photo is who fights it. It's lightweight versus middleweight. Which one is which? He is massive. This man should be fighting 2 weight classes up. How is he that much bigger than a guy who couldn't make 170 if he sawed a leg off?
I know. It's unbelievable. And then you watch the guy fight, and there's no wind up on the strikes. No wind up. Everything is just like a piston right down the middle. He's even squaring up quite a bit. Like, how a lot of guys, they'll angle off, Jalin will just kind of square up because he doesn't care. He's got a 6-inch reach advantage over you. He can square up. Everything's coming straight down the pipe. He could touch you. You can't touch him. God forbid you try to close the distance. He starts with those step-in knees and those elbows.
Yep.
Right? And then check this out, right? This is where you do the deep dive into the numbers. Jalin Turner has attempted 5 takedowns. Jalin Turner's opponents have attempted 26. Okay? So 5.2 takedown attempts for every one that Jalin Turner has. Jalin Turner's out-controlling his opponents 19% to 14%. So not only is the guy getting taken down, but he gets back up. When he takes you down, you stay there, and you are defending against submissions. This guy's come close to getting one-armed guillotine chokes here from the top position in the UFC. He's way bigger than everybody. His kickboxing is fantastic and very technical, and he's not trying to throw with power, but somehow this guy has managed to get 5 knockdowns in 8 fights. He's landing a knockdown on 1.5% of the significant strikes that he lands, 1.45 knockdowns per 15 minutes. And he's got a 77-inch reach, and he's 6'3" as a lightweight. So how do you beat this guy? Frivola out-wrestled him. Riddell's a decent wrestler. He's got 9 takedowns in 5 fights. He's attempted 23, 39% takedown accuracy. Yeah, he's good, but he's not holding you there. Especially when you're fucking 7 inches taller than him. And then now you're going to be able to be throwing up triangles. You're going to be able to get chokes from angles that most people can't get. if Riddell wants to get a body size that's similar to Turner in the gym, he's got to fight Israel Adesanya. That man is the 185-pound champion. He's never lost at 185. Okay? That's the guy that he needs to spar against in the gym in order to get a look like he's going to get from Jalin Turner, who's not even in the top 15 at 155. How do you not bet Jalin Turner here?
Weezy, I think that there are times in sports betting where lines don't make sense because it's a trap. And then there are times in sports betting where lines don't make sense because they just haven't caught up yet.
No.
I think Jalin Turner is a cheat code, Weezy. I think Jalin Turner is a absolute problem. There are people who are weight bullies. Jalin Turner is the king of weight bullies. He will eat your weight bully for breakfast. This man is 27 years old, fighting at lightweight with that frame. It's not fair.
Yeah.
And like you said, I don't think that Brad Riddell is capable of blanketing this man, and I honestly believe that's what it takes to beat him. You are not going to outstrike him at range. Brad Riddell is a serious kickboxer. He's got some solid power on him. Do not get me wrong. He could knock out Jalin Turner. If Jalin gets a little over aggressive, stays in the pocket too long, and eats one of those nasty hooks inside, he could get clipped and knocked out. However, I don't think I have any evidence to support that Jalin Turner is going to do that here. I think he knows the game plan. Now, it is a little bit concerning because Jalin Turner does have 3 knockout losses on his record and 1 knockout loss in the amateurs. So he has been clipped before. One of those was from Vicente Luque. Does Brad Riddell hit as hard as Vicente Luque? That was his most recent knockout loss. I don't know that he does. I think current form Jalin Turner is going to be a title challenger. I think current form Jalin Turner is going to be a problem. Maybe his days at 155 are limited, but honestly, I think he handles Brad Riddell pretty much anywhere unless he makes a mistake. If he loses this fight, it's his own damn fault because he should be able to win it pretty much anywhere it goes.
Yeah, and then let's just talk about really quickly. Jalin Turner is still only 27 years old. 27 years old. You know, I mean, that's huge. And then look at this. Jalin Turner spending about 33% of his fights in control time positions. Brad Riddell spending about 36% of his fights in control positions. Brad Riddell is attempting 8.9 significant strikes per minute. Jalin Turner's attempting 13.72. You know, and I mean, like sometimes ridiculous. You might see that when a guy is like, all right, this guy's spending 95% of his time at striking range, and the other guy's in grappling positions more than half the time. Yeah, Jalin Turner's a cheat code. He's a problem. He's massive, and he's very, very, very skilled. I think he might be a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt as well. And with that frame, you know what I mean? It's like you can't teach height. You can't teach length. You can't teach size. You know, there's a great clip of Bobby Knight back in the day coaching his Indiana basketball team, and he just brings them all into a huddle. He goes, I need all you guys to grow 6 inches, you know? And I mean, like, obviously they can't do that, but Jalin Turner already did that. He's a 6'3" lightweight. So, yeah, you can be a great kickboxer. How are you doing against the 205-pounders in the gym? Because that's what you're fighting. So, yeah, man, I'm on Turner here big time.
All right, man, I like it. I'm with you. I'm here on Turner. And honestly, one of the things I like is the under. I mean, we got the total set at 2.5. I think that's because of Brad Riddell's tendency to go the distance. Yeah. But that just seems like a free square to me. The under 2.5 is -175. We've seen that Turner can be caught in these exchanges and knocked out. Weezy, I don't think Brad Riddell can take 15 minutes with Jalin Turner, not coming off the knockout loss that he took against Rafael Fiziev. It was 7 months ago-ish. I mean, that's about the amount of time you'd want to take off to get back from a knockout loss that way. But again, every single fight he is in is a brawl. The way he fights, that damage is going to be a problem forever. Like, the accumulation is just going to continue being an issue. So if he comes out and wrestles, It doesn't mean he wins. Jalin Turner has got that ridiculous frame and submission ability. If he comes out and he wangs and bangs with a guy like Jalin Turner, maybe he wins with a hook. But I think the knees of Jalin Turner are going to be more the story of that fight. I think this fight ends. It's another one where, as much as I like Jalin Turner, I think I like the under even more.
Yeah, so Jalin Turner's got 8 fights at the UFC level. 7 of them have finished inside the distance. So that's a killer be killed fighter. And as a pro, 15 of his 17 fights have finished inside the distance. So, yeah, for fight doesn't go to decision at minus 150, that's not bad at all for a killer be killed fighter with a ton of power. And then also, Jalin Turner's got a 44% striking defense, and he does get hit. He's been knocked down. Riddell's a great kickboxer. But it's like the great kickboxing really comes into play when you're fighting somebody your own size. He's not fighting somebody his own size this time.
Correct. Yep. So I'm leaning Turner. I'm leaning under. I'm going to end up betting one and or both of those by fight time. Shout out real quick here. We have got Jan Imadeto. I'm sorry, Idamoto. I apologize. Thank you so much for the donation. We also have F. Carrillo, San Clintus, and Mr. Sack of Oranges beat down Uncle Weezy. Oi, let's go.
My guy, F. Carrillo, that dude is the most generous guy. Him and Tajik Bey support the community more than anybody I've ever met. And I've got some really supportive people who back me on my show. F. Carrillo is the king. Tajik Bey, the king. And everybody else that watches and supports hanging out with us on a Monday night. How many live viewers we got?
We got 381 live viewers going right now.
This
we are absolutely crushing it tonight. This is an incredible card. We're breaking records here on the podcast. Without you guys, we'd be nothing. So thank you all so much for spending your Monday night with us. We're getting to the good stuff, Weezy.
Yeah.
We're getting into the good stuff. Next fight up, Pedro Munhoz taking on Sugar Sean O'Malley. It's O'Malley fight week, Uncle Weezy. And you know what that means? I'm going to have to make the most insulting TikTok I can come up with because, guys, it's free likes. It's free clicks. If you make a hate TikTok on Sean O'Malley, I got nothing against the guy personally, but if you rile his fan base up, you just explode. It's free likes. I'm telling you, the platform is there for the taking. No, we've got a fight where, once again, it really feels like Sean O'Malley and his management know exactly what they're doing, Weezy. If he was going to take a guy that was going to crack him into the rankings, the top 10, the top 5, like, who do you target? Pedro Munhoz, who's 19-7, 1-4 in his last 5. You find the one guy who's got the good enough name with the lesser record, who's shown some chinks in the armor recently. That's the guy you want to leapfrog up into contention. And that's what they've done here. Sean O'Malley is 15-1. He knows how to fight tall and long. Dude is fast. He keeps his hands low and he plays maybe a little bit too much, relies on his head movement. But this is another one where we talked about how big Jalin Turner is. He's going to be a giant in there against Pedro Munhoz. He is a size bully here in this weight class and puts it to use, to good use. I can't knock Sean O'Malley's killer instinct, Weezy. When he's got people rocked or hurt, he absolutely flurries on them and puts them away. He's shown some patience in his last couple of fights, though. He doesn't rush that finish. He does let it come to him. And honestly, I think that makes him even more dangerous because you're not going to get caught rushing in for a finish. If you're waiting for your moment, if you're letting that moment come to you and you're fine winning a decision if it doesn't happen, you're just that much more dangerous because you don't give your opponent an opening. He's got a 7-inch reach advantage here in this spot. Ridiculous. Pedro Munhoz, love this guy. He's a warrior. He goes to town with some of these fighters. Now, I cashed a ticket on Frankie Edgar, but I think Pedro Munhoz should have got the nod there. So technically, maybe he should be 2-3 instead of 1-4 in his last 5. Pedro Munhoz has got good hands. He's a solid boxing. Decent power. He likes to chop down the tree. The story of this fight is gonna be those leg kicks, Weezy. Everyone's been waiting for this moment because Sean O'Malley's loss came from the infamous Chito Vera leg kick nerve situation. And we're all waiting to see if it happens again. We're all waiting to see somebody just go to town on this kid's calves and see if they can hold up. I hope Pedro Munhoz comes with that game plan. I just want to see it.
Yeah.
But he had Dom hurt in his last fight. Pedro Munhoz landed a big shot in round 1, had Dom on skates, could not quite close the distance to get there in time to follow up on it, couldn't get him out of there. And then he fell by decision on volume in rounds 2 and 3 because he couldn't replicate that shot. Weezy, if I were to put my tinfoil hat on, I would say that the UFC put Pedro Munhoz in the cage against Dominic Cruz to give Sean O'Malley a blueprint. It's almost like they said, you know what? Here's the lankiest, rangiest, well-movingest guy we got in the division who's a little bit older. Let's pair these two up, and then Sean O'Malley's got some tape to study. That's kind of what this feels like. I think that if Sean O'Malley plays a similar game plan to what Dom did against Pedro Munhoz, he should coast in this fight. Now, Pedro Munhoz has never been knocked out, and we all know Sean O'Malley as a big-time finisher here, Wheezy. There is some upside to there being violence here in this fight because of the leg kicks, because of the way Sean O'Malley cracks people at range. But I'm almost tempted to ride on durability. I'm almost tempted to ride on this is the biggest step up that Sean O'Malley has ever had in his career. The record difference between these guys is laughable. But the total set at 2.5, the under -120, the over even money +100. Instead of riding violence, Wheezy, I might look over. I might say, look, Sean O'Malley might win this fight, but he's not really going to want to engage with Pedro Munhoz. I think he keeps the range much, much more in this fight, keeps those ankles safe. Or if Pedro Munhoz does happen to find a way to win this fight, maybe his path is through the wrestling, where we haven't seen Sean O'Malley tested in some time. And I also think that, honestly, these guys probably just respect each other from a distance a decent bit more than we're used to. I just am not ready to see Pedro Munhoz flatlined, Wheezy. I guess that's all it comes down to. I think Sean O'Malley probably wins this fight. I'm going to say Sean O'Malley by decision. What you got going on here?
So I've got a 1-unit bet on Sean O'Malley by decision.
There we go.
I've got a 1-unit bet on the fight goes to decision.
I like it.
And the bet that I haven't made yet is the finish only prop for Pedro Munhoz. Now, what I'm playing here is the durability of Pedro Munhoz. If you've watched this guy fight, you could hit him in the face with a shovel and he's going to laugh at you. Okay? This guy is one of the most durable fighters in any weight class in the UFC. You're not knocking this dude out, plain and simple. But Pedro Munhoz has only attempted 34 takedowns in 17 fights, and he's only gotten 7 of them. Pedro Munhoz has 5.44% control time in 185 minutes of UFC cage time. So if you're Sean O'Malley, right, and you're saying, I don't want a guy who's going to grapple me. I don't want a guy who's going to put me up against the cage. I want a reach advantage. I want a guy who's going to strike with me, but I'm going to have the reach advantage, the volume advantage, the speed advantage. This is the guy that you pick up because Pedro Munhoz isn't going to wrestle. Pedro Munhoz has never gotten more than 200 seconds of control time in any UFC fight, if I remember correctly. So if you're going to beat Sean O'Malley, I'm thinking you don't want to be striking with the guy. He's so clean. He's so fast. He's so technically sound. He's constantly switching stances, and he's throwing from odd angles in addition to that. So it's a very, very difficult style to deal with. If this fight goes the distance, it's going to be Sean O'Malley just styling on him. I very rarely will watch a fight and then just go back and watch something. There was this when O'Malley was kicking the shit out of Montinho, he was boxing him up and then pretending to dribble a basketball and then throwing more combinations. And I sat back, I watched it 4 times in a row. I'm like, I have never seen anything like this. This dude is so fast. He's so confident. He's got that swag and he's got power. For a neuro-ass dude like O'Malley, skinny-ass guy, he throws perfectly. Everything that he does is for mixed martial arts. There's no traditional martial arts background for Sean O'Malley. It's all MMA. And the MMA striking is absolutely gorgeous. He's got a 7-inch reach advantage. He's 5 inches taller. He's 8 years younger. And Pedro Munhoz doesn't wrestle. He doesn't control people. He doesn't put people up against the cage. But what he does do well is he kicks those calves, and he's got a ton of power. And if he hurts you and you shoot in for a takedown, he's putting you in that gilly and you're going to sleep. So I see this fight. this is going to be the most units I have on any fight probably in the last 10 events. I'm probably going to be more than 5 units deep on this. I'm only 2 units deep right now, but I don't see Sean O'Malley finishing Pedro Munhoz. I do see a possibility for Munhoz to finish O'Malley if he lands low leg kicks, if he lands a big overhand right, or if he gets him into that guillotine. But I'm going with Munhoz's durability, and I'm going with Sean O'Malley's minute winning. And he wins minutes in the striking. Sean O'Malley is landing 8.26 significant strikes per minute and only absorbing 3.52. And 89% of his fights are taking place at striking range. So this guy's spending all of his fights at striking range, and he is dominating there. So I don't see any reason why this fight would be any different. But the one thing that you have to watch out for is if Pedro Munhoz lands that one big overhand, if he lands that one big calf kick, that on those neuro-ass legs of Sean O'Malley, one calf kick, man, can change the trajectory of the fight. So I think it's either Pedro Munhoz inside the distance or the fight goes to decision and Sean O'Malley is the winner. I don't see a lot of middle ground.
I'm right there with you, Weezy. Honestly, I'm here for it. If Pedro Munhoz can derail the hype train and pull off the upset, I would love it. But the way he wasn't able to follow up and capitalize on Dom has me very seriously questioning his ability to finish a kid the size of Sean O'Malley. So I completely agree with you. I do think we're going to get a 15-minute kickboxing match. I do think Pedro Munhoz is going to be on the receiving end of the majority of that beating. I like Sean O'Malley here in this spot. I think the over 2.5 at even money is probably the direction that I will look personally. I do think my pick is going to be Sean O'Malley by decision. Both these guys obviously could finish. I just think better men have tried to finish Pedro Munhoz, and I mean that. Better men have tried, and no one has been able to pull that feat off. Jose Aldo couldn't get it done. Aljamain Sterling couldn't get it done. Cody Garbrandt obviously couldn't get it done. Brett Johns couldn't do it.
Rob Font
couldn't do it. Yeah, man, there's a long list of extremely elite fighters that could not crack this man's chin. And if Sugar does it, I mean, I'll be extremely impressed if Sugar is able to go ahead and finally be the one to put away Pedro Munhoz and be the first guy to get it done professionally.
I'll tell you what, everybody who has a Sean O'Malley inside the distance ticket is going to say as soon as this fight ends, after the third round's time expires, fuck, Pedro Munhoz is durable. That's what they're going to say. They're going to be like, holy shit, he beat the shit out of Pedro Munhoz and Pedro didn't even blink. Look, if you're waiting for Sean O'Malley to knock out Pedro Munhoz, get ready to wait a long time. Nobody's knocking out Pedro Munhoz.
Honestly, Weezy, the one that I missed was last week, my boy Chris Curtis. I thought he was going to get it done in round 3, but Rodolfo Vieira showed off just how tough he was. That decision prop was like 22-1. That's the spot, man. I considered it for about a half second, and then I went, nah. Once he gasses out, he's going to fall apart. Like, relying on durability is a real thing. I think we can rely on Munhoz's durability more than just about anybody.
Absolutely. He's very, very durable, but my God, I can't wait for that fight too. Sean O'Malley's an absolute treat to watch. And when you get past the dumbass hair, the shitty tattoos, you got a guy who's absolutely boxing you up and doing it amazingly. And yeah, I know he's hanging out with snitches, and letting them give him face tattoos and shit. And he's making some really bad decisions outside of the cage that are hair related, that are friends. Who hangs out with Tekashi 6ix9ine? Who hangs out with snitches? I mean, back in my day, snitches got stitches. You didn't hang out with them and then put it on Instagram. You're like, oh, I'm hanging out with snitches. You don't do that. But Sean can do that and still get into that cage and make really good decisions and show off like the great mixed martial artist he is. So I can't wait to see this fight.
It's true. The one thing I'm jealous of with Sean O'Malley is the throne. I need a chair set up like he's got for his show, man. I need to upgrade to the point that I've got that kind of a throne sitting behind me. I'd be all about that. All right, everybody, here we go. We're getting to the good stuff. Sean Strickland taking on Alex Pereira. boy, does the UFC want something to happen with one of these boys. We have guaranteed that a title shot is next for whoever wins this fight, Uncle Weezy. Sean Strickland, the man who has single-handedly lit Twitter on fire the last year or so. Paulo Costa's taken over now, but Sean was running the place for a couple of months there. 25-3. Pereira is 5-1. It kind of seems a little ridiculous to have those two records going head-to-head here. Sean Strickland, a high-volume boxing guy. He is a special kind of psycho. He likes to live in the phone booth, Wheezy. He will walk forward, step face-to-face with you, and just box your face off 1 for 1. You punch, you go, I go. Like, he lives in that area. And honestly, I kind of hate the man because he prefers to give you a prolonged beating. He wants to give you brain damage. In the Uriah Hall fight, he could have finished that thing and cashed my round 4 or round 5 sprinkles at any point in time and just decided to beat Hall up and edge off just a little bit so he could hang around in the fight just a bit longer. I hate that he does that because it's pretty apparent that he can finish some of these fights if he wants to and literally chooses not to. Yeah. Now, Alex, this is the last man to finish Israel Adesanya. He's got the knockout win over the current champ. The UFC is quite obviously trying to set up the rematch so we can see this thing happen in the cage. He's training with Glover Teixeira, so we know the ground game, the defense, the takedown defense, the get-up game. They are all being worked on consistently with one of the greatest to ever play the game. He will have a 3-inch reach advantage in this spot. He is a well-rounded professional kickboxer, Muay Thai artist. He is a striker to the core, Wheezy. This guy's knees are nasty. The elbows are nasty. His punches come from angles you don't see coming. He's got big, big power in every strike. My guy Chris Curtis, though, is on record saying that Sean Strickland's going to take him down and tap him out. And that has been what we've seen play the narrative on Twitter. Everyone's talking about how Sean Strickland is going to come out, take this man down, and we know he's got an underrated grappling game. Sean Strickland is so much better on the ground than anybody gives him credit for. We just never see it because he chooses not to use it. I'll be honest, Wheezy. I understand the love for Strickland. I understand getting behind him at even money. But I can't trust this guy. Like, I know he's an extremely talented fighter. Again, he's a special kind of psycho, and that's what you're looking for at this stage of a career. But he has been knocked out before. It's been a while, but Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos got him back in 2018. And I don't think he's going to go to the ground. Everyone is out here counting on Sean Strickland to take Alex Pereira down. And I think that he is exactly the guy that he's shown us to be. Do you really think Sean Strickland is going to change up his game plan and be afraid of another man inside the octagon after all the shit he's talked and all the things that he's said and done? I just can't buy that, Wheezy. I don't believe that he is going to suddenly turn into a wrestler and look to take this man down because he's afraid to strike with him. I think he's going to do what he does to everybody. I think he's going to crowd him. I think he's going to volume him and stay right in his face, try to put him on the back foot so he can't throw back and just try to outwork the man. I think he can do it too. That's the scary part, is that even though I think he's not fighting the optimal game plan, I still think he has a direct path to victory. However, I also think that Alex Pereira is a very scary individual, and I think that if you stand in front of him, he will find a way to hurt you. So I'm kind of leaning towards the Pereira side myself. I think that the minus 120 price tag is maybe a little bit cheap. And even though everybody and their mom on Twitter is talking about betting Strickland, the line is moving in the direction of Pereira. I need to know some stats, Wheezy. I need to hear some numbers. I haven't made a bet here on this one. My higher consciousness is telling me that the UFC wants that rematch with Izzy, and they're going to get it. I don't know that Sean Strickland is the guy to stop those plans. So talk to me, Wheezy. What do we got going here? You're muted, buddy.
There's no question what the UFC wants here. They want Pereira versus Adesanya, right? I mean, they're trying to give Pereira a guy who won't take him down.
Exactly.
Problem is that Alex Pereira lost around Andreas Mihalidis. Now, I'm Greek. The Greeks gave so many gifts to this world, to our society, the humans, in general. One of those gifts is not Andreas Michailidis to MMA, okay? Michailidis has 1 round of gas, and he's marginal. But even a marginal wrestler like Michailidis can win a round off of Pereira if he just commits to the wrestling. Pereira's not stopping takedowns at this level. Not from Sean Strickland, not from anyone. And Sean Strickland doesn't wrestle much. You're right. 26 takedown attempts in 15 fights. So that's not the archetype of fighter that you're going to be counting on, saying, this guy's going to wrestle, this guy's going to win minutes. We don't have evidence to suggest that he's going to wrestle here. Here's the problem. What do you do against Uriah Hall? You wrestle him. What did Sean Strickland do against Uriah Hall?
Punched him in the mouth.
He walked him down like he had no respect for anything that he did on the feet. And then what does he do? He hurts Uriah Hall. Yeah, yes, it is.
I'm with
Mushroom. Mushroom. I'm with you there, man. You got that. The Greeks gave a lot of gifts, and food is most of it. Absolutely. But look, Strickland, where I lost my place. Where the hell was I just?
I'm so sorry. We got
distracted
me into
Euros, and I'm like, all right, I just completely.
We're 2 hours into a show. We got some shots in us. Weezy and I are getting hungry. I saw Euros and went, oh, baby, I could do with some lamb right about now. No. You were saying that he chose the worst path to victory against Uriah Hall. He could have taken him down. He chose to stand in front of him instead.
Yeah, and then when he hurt him on the feet, then he took him down, right? So, like, what I ask the Pereira backers is, how much better do you think Pereira is on the feet than Sean Strickland? Because Alex Pereira is older. He's 34 and Strickland's only 31. Alex Pereira is 6'4" and he's got an 80-inch reach. Strickland's 6'1", 76-inch reach. And then you're telling me that Pereira has the striking advantage. Fine, let him have it, okay? He's got nothing else. His best win is over Bruno Silva. And I mean, I hate to tell you guys, that was a close fight. That was a close fight. It's not like Alex Pereira went in there and just eviscerated this dude. Bruno Silva won a round. The second round was close. You could argue that Bruno won the second. The third round is where Pereira hurt Bruno and almost put him away. He definitely won that round. But, like, Sean Strickland would box up Bruno Silva. He would walk him down and he would finish him, okay? I'm not even convinced Alex Pereira is going to win a ton of minutes on the feet here. I know if he lands that left hook on the chin, it's over. I know that. I know he's longer. I know he's I know he's taller. I know he's got more power. He's got nothing else. The conditioning, all Strickland. The grappling, 10 Strickland, 1.5 Pereira. The strength of schedule, 9 Strickland, 1.5 Pereira. The mixed martial arts experience, 9 Strickland, 1.5 Pereira. Okay? If Strickland chooses to wrestle at all, he's going to look minus 200. And Clint, what if he walks him down and looks as good on the feet as he did against Uriah Hall? Uriah Hall is a guy who has more wins at the UFC. He's got 4 more wins at the UFC level than Alex Pereira has in his entire career. Okay? He's got 2 more knockouts at the UFC level than Alex Pereira has in his entire career in MMA. And Sean Strickland's a psychopath.
Yes.
He's an absolute psychopath. That's what the only reason I haven't max bet Strickland is because I think that he has no concern for his own well-being and that he might just stand in front of Alex Pereira for the full 15 minutes. And even if he does that, I still think there's a 1 in 3 chance he wins this fight.
That is exactly my fear, Wheezy, is that he's too insane for our own good betting. And that leads me to a problem here. But you raise some very valid points. I mean, obviously, Pereira is better than Uriah Hall striking. Yeah. So, I don't know that game plan is going to work quite as effectively. I think he's got just if not more power than someone like Uriah Hall does. So if he does throw back and land, it could be a very real problem for someone like Strickland who puts himself in that position. But damn, man, the grappling stats that you were talking about, that's really what jumps out to me. I do need to go back and rewatch that Bruno fight. It happened so recently that I kind of skipped over that one a little bit. I know it was a close competitive fight, but the Andreas Michailidis fight, you're right, though. He got absolutely dominated in that first round. Well, not dominated, but you know what I mean. Like, he got positionally controlled in an MMA fight, but Michailidis falls off a cliff after about 4.5 minutes.
One round of gas.
Yeah.
He's got one round of gas. So if you're not winning a second round against Andreas Michailidis, you don't belong here.
Yeah, and if Strickland does in any way, shape, or form decide to come out here and put a singlet on, he probably does have a much clearer path to victory. I wish I knew. I'm going to DM Chris Curtis and be like, buddy, I owe you a steak for cashing the ticket that you did for me. But is your boy really going to wrestle or not? Because if I can get confirmation that Strickland is wrestling, then we're off to the races. I will back Sean Strickland if I can get any inclination that he's actually going to go for takedowns.
Yeah, man. Yeah, this fight is so goddamn good, Clint. I can't wait. I mean, this card is sick. That's why there's almost 400 people watching us right now. This card is next level.
And when I say I owe the man a steak, I don't mean just any steak. Those of you that missed my tweet, Cousin Judd came in clutch last week for UFC Vegas 57. We had some good eats that night, cashing tickets on our boy Chris Curtis. So, yeah, Chris Curtis, if you're watching, I got a steak with your name on it. Let us know what the game plan is for Sean Strickland. So, folks, I'm bouncing back and forth. I don't know what to do with this one. Wheezy is telling me all the reasons why I should bet Sean Strickland, and I get it, and I hear it, and I should, but I'm terrified because of the man's poor decision-making inside of the cage. I might get talked into getting there by Saturday. I want to listen to the interviews. I want to hear, where his psychopathic mind is at by fight day. Total set at 1.5 though, Wheezy. Over is -150, under is +130. I'm kind of feeling the over 1.5 here. I know this one definitely has some finishing upside, but do we think Strickland just dices through him like a hot knife through butter on the ground? Is he going to tap him in round 1 if he grapples, or do we think he can hold up for a round and get a round 2 finish? Is this going to be a late KO when one of these guys is tired, or your classic beating from Sean Strickland when his opponent probably should have fallen over 10 minutes earlier, but he let him survive just to cause him some more pain and brain damage? I kind of think the over 1.5 makes a little sense.
What is the over 1.5 sitting at?
It is -150. So it's a little steep, but it's not bad.
Hey, let me tell you something. I got the numbers right in front of me. I got my prop template, right? 6 out of 17 total UFC fights for Pereira and Strickland have finished inside the distance, man. That's only 35%. And the fight goes to decision is 42%. But that means that 64.7% of these guys' combined fights have went to decision. 64.7%. You're only paying 42.5% for fight goes to decision. Not bad.
Okay. I may have just found my spot. Don't pick a side. Just let this thing go more than 7.5 minutes. I like that. Maybe I'll be going over
Alex
1.5.
Doesn't land that left hook. That's it.
I gotta just try and keep, my guy Strickland's head out of the way of a left hook for 7.5 minutes. I think maybe we can do that. All right, everybody. Co-main event time. Do us a favor. Smash the shit out of the like button. We got 416 live viewers breaking the podcast record. Thank you all so much for being here. Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway 3. Wheezy, inject it straight into my veins. These people complain, Wheezy. People complain about this matchup. I will watch Volkanovski and Holloway fight until I can't stand up straight from scoliosis. I love this matchup. These guys are so evenly matched, and the volume is off the charts. I mean, I want to talk about how Holloway is taller, and he's the volume king, and he's got a 2-inch reach advantage, but none of that matters. Volkanovski has still been able to beat him twice. He's been able to get back-to-back wins off of this man, and I just lost my uncle Wheezy. Somebody help me. He disappeared. Wheezy, I can see you backstage, but I think your video cut out. Not sure what happened. I'm going to continue on the breakdown while Uncle Weezy gets his shit sorted out there. Guys, Volkanovski, I mean, he's coming off a gigantic TKO win. Thank God we finally came around and cashed some tickets on that, man, because I have been digging my heels in, not wanting to get on the Volkanovski train. I have been the guy pounding my chest saying that Max Holloway is the rightful champion, the GOAT in this weight class, the man who will beat him, the man who will finally get back on track. And I thought Max Holloway won the rematch. I really thought that Max Holloway deserved to get the nod in the rematch. He almost killed Alexander Volkanovski, I think in round 2, when he landed that big punch. He finally decided to sit down on something instead of trying to go volume for volume with the leg kick king. So I am all for going to war here with Max Holloway, but I'll be honest with you guys. If a fighter wins, back-to-back times and you get a trilogy matchup, how often does the other guy pull off the upset in the third fight? I don't have the statistical numbers for that. I wish I had thought of that before we were live on the show, because I would love to look it up and see exactly what it says. I do want to apologize, by the way. I got those numbers backwards. Volkanovski is the one with the reach advantage. Even though he is the shorter fighter here, he actually is the one with the longer arms, which is super weird. But guys, I just can't. I cannot bring myself to bet Max Holloway against Alexander Volkanovski. I've done it twice. I've lost twice. I thought the second fight was closer, and it was, but he still didn't get the nod. Volkanovski is the GOAT at this point. He knows how to win. He's got the blueprint to beat Max Holloway. That's something I never thought anybody would ever really lock down and be able to do. But at the end of the day, I think Volkanovski has cracked the code. He's a guy that's talking about moving up a weight class now because he's cleaned out his division, and Max Holloway is a league above anybody else in the weight class, and he's beat him twice already. If Volkanovski wins this fight, he's going to go try and get a second strap. I love Max Holloway. I just don't know how he's going to get this one done. And even though we've seen high volume, high paced action with both these fights going the distance, the way Volkanovski fought against Chan Sung Jung. Now, I know Chan Sung Jung is not Max Holloway, Weezy. I know it's a difference in level, but I almost feel like Volkanovski puts a stamp on this one. I almost have this gut feeling that Volkanovski ends the trilogy. I don't know that Max Holloway, I know for a fact Max Holloway is not an easy man to finish. It almost never happens, but I'm not touching anything on the other side of Volkanovski with the current form that he's in. Weezy talked to me about the numbers and the stats. Is there value on the dog? Should we be throwing a unit into the void on Max Holloway again like we have the last 2 times? What are we doing with this one?
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. Everything that you just said completely makes sense. Volkanovski just looks on another level right now. You don't realize that he's got a 2-inch reach advantage, but he does, and that's significant in a fight like this. And you look at Volkanovski's numbers over this 11-fight sample size, 177 minutes. He lands exactly twice as many strikes as his opponents do. I mean, you know how hard that is to do at this level? When you see like a 1.5 to 1 striking ratio, you're like, whoa, man. This guy lands 45 strikes for every 30 that his opponents lands. Well, Volkanovski, he's landing 60 for every time his opponents land 30. That's how good he is. That's how good he is at winning minutes. And then you look over on the other side of Holloway, who's had 2 fights against this guy in Volkanovski, and he's landing 7.38 and only absorbing 4.7. So both of these guys are masters of winning minutes on the feet. Holloway has attempted 0.5 takedowns per fight, so we don't have to worry about him shooting for takedowns. Volkanovski has actually attempted almost 6 takedowns per fight, but he's gotten 23 of them, but most of those came earlier in the career. He's so good on the feet now, he doesn't really need to worry about his wrestling. The strength of schedule stats, they lean Volkanovski in the wins and in the overall. But the problem that I have is I can't lay minus 200 on Alexander Volkanovski when I felt like the last fight they were minus 110. I went into the scorecards being like, well, flip a coin. I don't know who won that fight. I'm thinking Volkanovski won it. And if I don't know who won the fight, then you're damn sure that the judges don't.
Yeah.
These guys,
the judges don't know shit right now.
Dude,
Weezy.
somebody fucked up 10 plus 9 plus 9 last week, and we got a bad scorecard. You know, I mean, Sal D'Amato was like 10 plus 9 plus 9, 27. Yeah, you know, and they handed in that scorecard and they read it wrong. Okay, so if you don't know who's winning the fights, Sal doesn't know who's winning the fights. Sal doesn't even know his wife's name anymore. This guy doesn't know what the hell's going on. Okay, in the room with him, you can flat out lie to his face and gaslight him, and he'll just believe you. So, if the fight winds up being close and you got a coin flip, I'd rather have the plus money. And I don't think Alexander Volkanovski is 66% and Holloway's 33% to win this fight. I feel it's much closer to 50-50. I feel you can make an argument that Holloway won the first 2 fights. And I mean, you can make the argument. It doesn't necessarily mean that it happened, but should you be laying minus 200 on 2 guys that are so evenly matched in skill? They've fought 10 rounds. They've shared that cage for 50 minutes, and it's still close, you know? So I'm not running to the window to bet Holloway or anything, but I'd probably get to the window to bet Holloway before I would get there to bet Volkanovski. And
I don't think I've got it in me, though, Weezy. Losing back-to-back heartbreakers with Holloway in this matchup, like a split decision that I felt they got wrong, and then the first fight that was an upset that I had to rewatch 3 times before I understood how Volkanovski got his arm raised at the end of it. Like, I just don't think I've got it in me to go back to the well with Holloway in that spot, you know, and the chat's onto it. They're saying, you know, the way Sal D'Amato has been judging Max Holloway by split is looking like the play of the century, but I don't think I can. I don't think I can do it.
Last night or the other night when I was watching Saruki and Gamrot, after round 2, they come back on the broadcast and they say that the live line is minus 650 Saruki and plus 380 Gamrot. And I'm like, well, I think Sarukian won the first 2 rounds, but those judges are morons. Why not just bet plus 380? They're flipping coins. They're on their phones talking to Joe Rogan. You know, I mean, like, why not? I'm pissed off I didn't bet Gamrot because I was just saying I should just bet Gamrot because these judges are incompetent.
Yeah.
And then I'm supposed to lay minus 200 on Holloway when especially that last fight. It could have went either way. My man Brady had a max bet on Volkanovski, and he was like, I lost. And he won the bet, but it was too close, you know? So, yeah, man, I don't think I'm going to bet this fight. I'm going to sit back and enjoy it. But if I had to, I'd probably go Holloway and take that plus money.
Okay. Well, a little bit of disagreement here from myself and Uncle Weezy, seeing this thing kind of opposite sides here. Honestly, Weezy, I'm probably just going to leave this fight alone. I don't think I have any reason to bet it. It's going to be a fun one to watch. You can guarantee this is going to be a fun fight to watch. But if it is truly a 50-50, then the value is going to be on Max Holloway, who is a plus 165 underdog. You don't want to be sitting there with minus 185 in your pocket. If this thing is 2-2 going into the 5th round, you might end up winning it, but it doesn't make it a good bet. So I'm probably just going to stay off and watch. Definitely, you know, my guy Shane Skull, by the way, let's go Vikings in the chat saying fireball and popcorn. That's right. This is the one where we get a snack and we drink, but you do not leave the room. You stay glued to the television for this one because it's going to be a damn fun fight.
Yep, absolutely. Can't wait for this one. And then we got another title fight to talk about. We are just absolutely spoiled.
Hell yeah, we do, Weezy. Main event time, over 400 live viewers. Thank you all so much for being here with us on the Die Hard MMA podcast. This is my guy, Uncle Weezy, joining me, doing an extra shot for the people. I would, but I got to drive right after this. So, you know, maybe next week.
Night, baby. I can get
there.
Drunk.
You go. You get up there, Weezy. You get fired up. All right, folks, here we go. Israel Adesanya taking on Jared Cannonier. And Weezy, I actually remember I was live when Jared Cannonier fought Ion Cutelaba. I got to see that.
Such a good fight.
Such a good fight. But I had no clue what I was getting myself into with Jared Cannonier. Here, I think this big old flabby boy is going to flare out at the UFC heavyweight division like most of the guys we see do. Alan Badeau comes to mind.
Yeah.
This man cuts down from heavyweight. Like, he is the poster boy for get your shit together. Like, I've never seen a transformation like this man. He's got heavyweight power at 185 pounds because he cut all the way down and he carries that strength with him. It's insanity. And he's got those crystals, Wheezy. He's got the extra oomph from the power of the crystals behind him, but he has come out here, been on record saying that Israel Adesanya is like Thanos because he controls time and space. So he's got a healthy respect for the opponent that he's going against in there. And I don't know if I can break this thing down any better than that. Israel Adesanya is a wizard in the cage. The distance that he keeps, the game plan is always different. Like every time we think we know what Izzy's going to do, he does something insane, like staring at Yoel Romero and kicking his leg 20 times to win a decision. Like just a game plan that you never would have thought of, he comes up with and sticks to and does whatever it takes to get the win. I think that there is some takedown defense concern with Israel Adesanya. We saw that with Jan Blachowicz. However, that was up a weight class. You know, the jump from 185 to 205 is a massive one. I don't think that this man can take Israel Adesanya down and grind him for a full 25 minutes. Maybe he can. I'm not convinced. I think there's a pure athleticism difference. You know, if someone like Marvin Vettori wasn't able to close the range and keep on him that way, I don't think that Jared Cannonier can. I do think that the sheer power and muscle of Jared Cannonier will get a couple of takedowns in this fight. I'm just not convinced he's got the technique or ability to hold him there. Now, unless I'm mistaken, Jared Cannonier is still training out at the MMA lab, and we've seen how those fighters have made leaps and bounds worths of improvements. Mario Bautista last week comes to mind. The ground is the path for Jared Cannonier. I mean, he could clip Israel Adesanya with a big punch. With these types of strikers, anybody could get knocked out. But Wheezy, Izzy said, I'm going to make it look easy. And, you know, you saw last week, Olberg looked better than he ever has. And they actually dipped on out of the fights to go train in the back. There's video of them grappling on YouTube during the UFC card last week because instead of watching, they were so amped up for Izzy's fight, they went to go train some more. I think Izzy is beyond motivated for this. I think he knows what's coming down the pipe where he's probably getting, or at least the UFC wants him to defend his title against Pereira. I just think he's on another level and he's insanely focused. I'm not, similarly to how I don't want to go against Volkanovski, it's more so I don't want to be on the other side of Izzy. I think that there's value on some underdogs. There's also value on favorites. People give me a ton of shit for not talking about how there's value on favorite lines, and it's not just the underdog that holds value. I am not going to say that the underdog line holds value here, Wheezy. I believe Israel Adesanya, and I think when he says I'm going to make it look easy, you should listen. I'm with the champ here. I don't know how I'm going to play it. I don't know if I'm going to parlay it. I don't know if I'm going to take him inside the distance or by decision, but I really think that Israel Adesanya defends his title and probably does make it look easy.
Yeah, Adesanya has made it look easy. You know, he's 11-1 in the UFC and he's 11-0 at middleweight. So, you know, the guy's an incredibly talented kickboxer. He stuffs his takedowns. He doesn't get controlled on the ground. And when he's on the feet, he lands 3.84 significant strikes a minute and only absorbs 2.56. His striking defense, 62%. He's landing a knockdown on 1.5% of the significant strikes that he lands. I mean, everything looks perfect. And then, you know, we can look at Jared Cannonier's career and we can discern whether or not he's going to wrestle. Jared Cannonier has 13 fights at the UFC level and he's attempted 4 takedowns. 4. So, I mean, you know, if you're putting money on Cannonier saying, yeah, I think he's going to wrestle, well, there's no evidence to suggest that he will. There's no evidence to suggest that he's ever been comfortable wrestling. This is a guy who's got a ton of power, great leg kicks, and he wins fights by keeping them standing and winning minutes and winning moments on the feet. That's a tough row to hoe against somebody like Israel Adesanya in the big cage, right? Where he's got more room to move, where he's got more room to dance. He can maintain that distance, use that 3-inch reach advantage that he has. Both of these guys switch stances. So if Jared gets going with the leg kicks, Israel's, you know, well schooled enough to be able to switch stances and be able to get offense and defense off from both stances, just like Jared Cannonier can. So we're going to have to see something from Cannonier that we haven't really seen before. Jared Cannonier has controlled his opponents 4.72% of his cage time. That's 131 minutes. So it's under 7 minutes of control time in 13 fights. I kind of feel like he's going to need to get Israel's back up against the cage, potentially get him down to the ground, make him carry his weight, close the distance, because you don't want Israel throwing those kicks, while you're at punching range. So I think we're going to need to see Jared do some things that we haven't really seen him do before. We're going to need to see Jared Cannonier 2.0 in order to believe that he's going to have a chance here, because Israel is a master of winning minutes on the feet at striking range, and Jared Cannonier's fights take place at striking range. About 76% of the time, but he's only controlling his opponents 4.72% of the time. So, him being able to win enough minutes in the clinch and on the ground in order to win this fight, the percentage of that happening is very, very low. So, I guess I kind of get the line. I can't get to Israel Adesanya at minus 400, though. I'm not parlaying him there. Maybe Izzy by decision. I don't care if he says he's going to make it look easy. He hasn't made shit look easy lately. And like I say,
that's fair.
You hope in one hand and you shit in the other, Clint. Which hand is going to fill up first? I want to know what's happening in the cage, and I know that Israel Adesanya has been a little bit tentative lately, man. I'm not even sure that he won that fight against Whitaker.
That was a very competitive fight.
It was a very competitive fight, and Cannonier was competitive with Whitaker for 2 rounds. Now, Whitaker did win the first 2 rounds, but he won them on volume, not on power, not on landing huge shots. Then he landed that big head kick in the 3rd round, won a dominant 3rd round. Still didn't finish him, but it was close to getting him out of there. And I could see Adesanya landing that big shot. But I think the most likely path is going to be Israel Adesanya by decision. He's a very cautious fighter. That's why he's champion. He doesn't put himself into situations where his opponent is going to be comfortable. So I think he's going to do what he needs to do, because Jared Cannonier is very dangerous. If he stands at boxing range with Cannonier, he's going to get his calves kicked. He's potentially going to get punched in the face. And Jared Cannonier is way, way stronger than Israel Adesanya. This guy is a guy who fought at heavyweight. Izzy, got mauled by a 205 or up a weight class, and it made it look fairly easy when he went to wrestle. Now, that's not Jared's game, but let's remember that Jared does have that light heavyweight power, and that Israel's easiest path is to be smart, is to dance, is to point fight. Because if he wants to try to make this look easy, he risks getting caught. And if he does that, I don't want to pay minus 400 for him.
For sure. I absolutely hear you there, Wheezy. That makes a ton of sense to me. Very confusing fight. Very interesting fight. It's kind of hard to find a spot on it because, like I said, I like Izzy and I want to be on the Israel Adesanya side. It's tough when it's minus 400, though, to do anything but parlay that. The total at 4.5. Over minus 120 makes some sense. The last guy or the only guy in the UFC to actually finish or knock out Jared Cannonier was Sean freaking Jordan up at heavyweight. Yeah. Israel Adesanya is capable of some styling finishes. However, I would want to lean more on the durability of Jared Cannonier in this spot. And the under at plus 100, again, the way that Jared Cannonier can punch, the way that we've seen Israel Adesanya finish, you can argue either side of every single opportunity in this fight. Wheezy, I think I like Izzy by decision is what I'll settle on as far as my prediction for the fight goes. I think that he doesn't want any part of those dangerous spots where Jared Cannonier will have a path to victory. And instead of engaging in those kinds of spots, he'll treat him like Yoel Romero. I think he'll use his movement. I think he'll use the leg attacks. He'll use the jab, stick and move, might even run. But at the end of the day, I think he's going to make sure there's no question who's up on the scorecards. So I'm going to say Israel Adesanya by decision.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. I mean, he's minus 400 for a reason here. We haven't really seen Jared fight a type of game plan that's going to make Israel uncomfortable. And when Israel's comfortable, he's extremely difficult to beat. So That's the way I would probably bet this. You'll get plus money on Israel by decision if you bet that now. But, this is
Carol B is right. Reyes did also actually finish Jared Cannonier. So sorry for the mistake.
Twice. It was Jordan, and then there was one other. I didn't remember who the other one was, but yeah, I guess it was
Reyes. So, yep.
Yeah, and at 205, another power guy, but very similar body type to Israel Adesanya. So, that's all you need to know. Yeah, I'll pick Adesanya, pick him to win by decision, but the line's just too wide for me to get involved.
I hear you. All right, guys, that is it. Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, everything in between. We don't judge here. Thank you so much for watching the Die Hard MMA podcast. That was UFC 276. We broke the whole damn thing down for you. I will get timestamps up as quickly as I can this evening. It takes a little while for me to get there, folks. Got to feed the wife and kid. We found some spots for you. Hopefully that was entertaining and knowledgeable enough for you to make some decent bets on Saturday. Put some money jingle in your pockets for this awesome fight night. Weezy, thank you for flying in, ripping that shirt open, showing the S on your chest and saving the show for me, being an awesome guest here this evening. Let the people know where they can find you, and you better have, 350 new subs come Tuesday.
Yeah, man, you can find me on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy. I'll be live tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Central Time, Clint, for Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy, where I'll break down all 12 of these fights from a statistical and tape study perspective. I'll give you a greasy 4-leg parlay, and I'll finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, where I give you who's going to win by the most dominant method possible on this card. You can find me on the MMA Engine YouTube channel as well, doing content over there with DFS by the numbers, Lou Betya, and Monk Maddox. We've got a website that's going to be coming probably by mid-July here, where we're going to have content creators be able to post their content on our site. We're going to have an optimizer for DFS players. We're going to have analytics on all the over-under bets. It's going to be a one-stop shop for all of your gambling and DFS information that you could possibly need for MMA, specifically the UFC. And you can find me on Pub Sports Radio, my man, with Clint on Monday, with Brady on Sunday, on Wednesdays for the DFS show, on Saturday with Boston Nick and the boys for the watch along. You can find
I'll
me
be there this week, Weezy.
Oh, good. I'll be there.
I'm coming
too,
on
man.
Saturday. I'll be there. We're doing shots,
man.
baby. We need to win some bets.
Card. It's the most amazing card of the year probably so far. I mean, even the Covington card wasn't quite this good. So I can't wait to do that with you guys, watch the fights, stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC 276. Clint, thanks a lot for having me on. I had so much fun with over 400 people in here breaking down the best card of the year. What a treat, man. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, Weezy. Thank you, as always, for coming on the show. We will do it again very soon. I'm happy to hear we'll get to hang out on Saturday for the show. Everybody, sub here to Pub Sports Radio if you haven't already. We got betting content for every sport for you every single day of the damn week. I'm coming back on Thursday for the Total Takedown, Friday for the undefeated post-weigh-in show where we bust out the tinfoil cap, try to put a stamp on those bets, and then we'll be hanging out live here for those fights on Saturday. The alcohol will be flowing. The live bets will be made on the show. It's going to be a good time. You don't want to miss it. Everybody get out there, kick some ass, have a great week. And just remember, folks, gambling is supposed to be fun. Make sure you don't overextend on anything. Proper bankroll management is the most important thing that you have to your name. Make sure you don't overextend on any single one spot. Don't spend any money that you can't afford to lose. This is something you should be doing on the side for entertainment. We're going to try and help you build that bankroll and have a good time doing it safely. Kick some ass out there this week, everybody. We got some good stuff to look forward to on Saturday. Let's roll, everybody. Have a great week.